Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching second part of What If Naruto Was Trained by Gods of Dragon Ball. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
You idiot! Vegeta let out a startled cry, believing Trunks lacked the courage to do so. Sorry, Trunks deadpanned. I guess it slipped, looks like I'll be going this one alone. Trunks stabbed him in the neck, knocking him unconscious before Vegeta could react. Then he snatched the unconscious Saiyan and flew to Krillin, draping him over the shorter man's shoulder. Take my dad and leave this place, Trunks said. I don't want anyone in my way because this is going to get messy. Are you certain about this? Krillin inquired. Father has already shown himself to be a liability, Trunks said, nodding. Eliminating the threat posed by Cell comes before my own desire to prove myself to him. He would only have obstructed my path. Krillin said, okay, we'll go up to look out. How about her? Tien cocked his head in 18's direction and asked. She doesn't pose much of a threat now, but still take her with you to keep an eye on her, replied Trunks. Tien flew over and informed her that Trunks wanted them to leave. 18 considered leaving alone, but ultimately decided that her best option was to stay with the Z fighters and see if they could figure out a way to beat Cell. How ideal these Trunks are. The fact that the two warriors from the future would fight to decide the fate of the past is almost fate, Cell declared. Only in your sick and twisted mind, Trunks spat at the android in disgust. This is where it ends for you. I've witnessed what happens when Dr. Gero's monstrous creations are allowed to run amok. In some ways, the androids in this timeline differ from those in mine. They don't have the same overwhelming urge to destroy everything around them, but you are different, and I could see it in their eyes. Everything around you is plagued by you. I can see it in your eyes that if you are allowed to act freely, you will ruin everything around you for your own entertainment. I am aware of the devastation those eyes aim to cause. Unlike my friends from this era, every sacrifice I've made and every sacrifice made for me have culminated in this battle, the end of you and everything you stand for. A mocking Cell gave Trunks a phony round of applause and said, a lovely little speech. It's a shame that all you have accomplished will soon be rendered nothing by my perfection, the Cell said. Trunks decided it was time to take action and charged the android, attempting to level him with a boot to the face, which Cell blocked with his left forearm. Trunks then followed up with a roundhouse kick, which Cell flipped backwards to avoid, and then a vertical kick that Trunks caught with his left hand. Trunks then attempted to jab Cell with his free hand, but the smirking android caught his attack, and the two released each other and parted ways. Cell abruptly disappeared and then reappeared directly in front of Trunks, surprising him with his speed as he pushed a familiar spiraling ball of energy into his chest. You know, there's a new technique I'm just itching to try out. Rasengan. Damn, did the Grand Kai and I engage in another drinking contest? The blonde was lying flat on his back in a pool of water, staring up into what looked like a dark, damp room. Naruto moaned as he opened his eyes. Now how the devil did I end up here? I took care of Vegeta, went to the doctor, and went to save 18, who then got absorbed. Fuck. As he sat up, his yell reverberated throughout the empty space. He shivered and said, all right, I'm in Cell somehow. How the fuck am I still alive? Then he recalled that in a desperate attempt to deprive Cell of his full power, he had jammed a Gog Yufuin across his stomach to interfere with his old seal and possibly reactivate it. Naruto muttered, I can't believe that actually fucking worked. But what about? He then got up and scurried forward until he was blocked by a metal door with multiple bars. Then he turned to his left and saw the enormous, well-known seal that he had once been on the other side of. Well, this is different, but I suppose that luck sometimes pays more than skill, Let's take some inventory, Naruto said, lowering himself to the ground in a contemplative pose. Trunks was unprepared for the attack, but he was able to destabilize it with a quick burst of ki. Trunks flared his aura to clear the smoke from the little explosion and show that he was unarmed. Trunks said casually, yours doesn't seem to pack the same punch. The taunt, come on Trunks, was disregarded by Cell. I'm sure you're capable of more. Let me see your full potential. Take caution when wishing for Cell, it could kill you, Trunks replied. Trunks stooped, grunting and moaning as his body emitted a series of golden flashes, then abruptly tilted his head back as his golden aura sprang up, flaring violently around his body. His voice cried out, and the muscles all over his body convulsed as his power continued to grow as he tapped into the full power of his ascended Super Saiyan form, even making Cell marvel at the sight. Electrical surges sparked around him as the previously relaxed parts of his hair protruded straight out, tearing apart the hair tie that had been holding it in place. Cell whispered, whoa, as he gazed in wonder at the remarkable change. I thought he was impressive releasing that blast earlier, but this is unbelievable. He is even surpassing the levels Vegeta and Naruto were battling at. Piccolo said as he struggled to comprehend the energy Trunks was releasing from the edge of the lookout. The magnitude of Trunks' energy seemed to hit everyone at once, causing the group en route to the lookout to pause in midair. "Wow, this is amazing!" Krillin cried out. "If I hadn't seen him earlier, I wouldn't believe it was possible," said Tien. 18 wondered, how did he get that kind of power, and so fast? At the absurdity of it all, Krillin shook his head and said, "These Saiyans are amazing. They never stop growing, they gain more power with each adversary. It's Trunks' turn now." As the group started walking back to the lookout, Tien said, "Come on, let's go." "Cell, you got me. You want me?" Trunks disappeared and then resurfaced in front of Cell, putting a knee in his stomach before launching a vicious barrage of punches and a final power kick that sent Cell crashing into a cliff face. The android came out of the encounter unharmed, but with a crazy smile on his face. "That's it. This amazing power. I still sense that you're getting stronger. Go all out. When I destroy you, I want you to be at your strongest," Cell cried out. Cell continued to watch with a slight smile as he saw the change. "So be it." Trunks landed on the ground, his aura still violently flaring around him as he arched his back, screaming out to the skies while he continued to power up. The clouds overhead darkened as lightning flashed across the sky and bioelectricity sparked around Trunks. His muscles no longer convulsed, but instead bulged as they grew in size. "Trunks, that's the way. Show me your immense strength. It will be a great pleasure to do battle with a Super Saiyan at your level," stated a smirking Cell. Cell shifted into his own power-up stance and summoned his own power as a calm gold aura sprung up around his body. As he did this, a strange circular pattern of blue symbols appeared on the center of his black chest plate momentarily before vanishing. Trunks continued his own power-up as his muscles increased in size again, while his energy churned up the earth beneath him. Cell chuckled as he shifted into a fighting stance. Both warriors paused before charging one another and landing punches simultaneously on each other's faces. Cell rolled of the blow into a roundhouse kick that Trunks blocked with his right arm. Trunks delivered a vicious haymaker with his left that staggered Cell momentarily. Trying to capitalize, Trunks moved in for another power punch, only for the blow to be caught by Cell. He swung around with his other fist only for that to be caught by Cell too. Trunks readjusted his fists, grasping onto the Cell's hands and deadlocking the two warriors in a power struggle, trying to push each other back. Both warriors grunted and yelled as their auras flared violently while they tried to overpower each other. Cell suddenly whipped his head forward, startling Trunks with a headbutt, but the Ultra Super Saiyan shook of the blow easily, surprising Cell with a headbutt of his own. Trunks followed with a powerful combination of punches and kicks that drove Cell back before sending him crashing into the ground with a vicious double axe handle. Cell growled in frustration momentarily, before quickly rising to his feet and dusting himself off. "Good Trunks, not bad at all, but you can't win, so give up," Cell mocked. As he attempted to extract even more power from his transformation, the enraged Super Saiyan roared to the skies, only to be further infuriated by this. Good, it seems the bulk of his absorption was raw physical attributes and power. The seal locking away my consciousness also locked away my knowledge of more sophisticated techniques. At the beginning of his meditation, Naruto was unable to learn much about his circumstances until about halfway through, when the seal emitted a pulse of energy that swept over him, as if a flood of information flooded his brain. Then Naruto's thoughts were cut short. He only got the basic Rasengan and some of my shitty derivations. Get moving. This has to be the path. As Naruto heard footsteps approaching the cage along the path, a voice yelled. Naruto retreated to the back of the cage, thinking, shit, how did he manage to find this place so soon? I'm not ready yet. He stepped far enough into the shadows to see the intruder, but the intruder was unable to see him. To his surprise, he discovered two figures approaching the cage, and he was so taken aback that he hurried forward to meet them at the gate. "You, what got you here?" were the cries of Naruto, 16, and 17 all at once. A moment later, the test tube warrior reappeared a short distance away. Laughing Trunks continued unfazed, charging Cell in an attempt to level the green creature with a powerful double kick combination, but Cell easily avoided the first move before delivering a spinning kick into Trunks' gut that sent the young Super Saiyan crashing into the ground. Trunks blurred from his position, reappearing in front of Cell, throwing a right-handed jab that the android simply leaned back to avoid. "Face it, Trunks, you don't stand a chance against perfection," exclaimed Cell. Trunks lashed his fists against the floor in exasperation, then leapt to his feet and charged Cell, throwing two punches that Cell easily sidestepped, then a roundhouse kick that went unnoticed, and a punch that left his fist stuck in a boulder. "Trunks, you're too slow. You'll need to perform better than that," a laughing Cell remarked. Gosh. Why can't I get my punches to land? Trunks smashed the boulder to dust, growling. Not believing what they were in, the three prisoners in the cell kept staring at each other in disbelief until Naruto was the first to speak after the shock subsided. How the devil are you all here, even though I'm glad to see you guys? I know why I've manifested, but I thought you two would be long gone, the blonde inquired. 16 said, I think our manifestation is also your doing, as she walked over to the side of the cage to examine the seal. I have no idea what the hell was going on, 17 said with a simple shrug. I felt as though I had been put into a deep sleep ever since I was caught, until he woke me up. 16 started, perhaps I should start from my own awakening. Rewind. From 16's perspective, after getting my body completely absorbed by Cell, there was a momentary flash of excruciating pain before my mind and body shut down, as if I was back in Dr. Gero's containment chamber. However, after some time, something strange happened. It was as if my mind had rebooted but my body was still shut down. It was complete darkness. I couldn't see or move, I was just frozen. Then suddenly I was enveloped by this warm feeling. The darkness shifted into this green aura, and I could feel myself regaining strength as the power built up inside me, until there was a feeling like a great explosion. I found myself completely reawakened in this strange room, my body enveloped by this green aura, pulsing with energy. I looked around and saw that I somehow freed myself from a containment unit, not unlike the pods in Dr. Gero's lab. The entire room seemed like a portion of his laboratory. I realized this must be some sort of construct of Cell's mind or body, as the pod was clearly labeled for 18 and not myself. There were several wires and rods connected to the pod that led outside the room and into a second pod I noticed to be containing 17. When I tried to open it, the door wouldn't budge. However, something in the back of my mind told me to overload the pod with the green energy. I placed my hands over the top and started channeling the energy into the pod, and seconds later the door shattered, revealing an awakening 17. Typical point of view. When 17 awoke, he quickly opened his eyes and said, "Wow, what happened?" He shook his head and complained, and when the dark-haired android looked up, he saw a beaming 16 hovering over him. As he assisted his fellow android in leaving the pod, 16 said, "Welcome back to the land of the living." What the devil? As 17's final moments before being absorbed flashed through his mind, the unintelligible android blurted out, "Did Gero seal us up again? Shit. That bastard got me. Then we must be dead." Not exactly. I was also engrossed. We're inside Cell somehow, 16 clarified. How is that possible, though? A perplexed 17 asked. I'm not sure, since I am completely mechanical. I didn't think I could possibly be absorbed, but somehow we're here because of this weird energy. 16 summoned the energy once more and briefly let it envelop his body. When 17 saw 16 turn his head with a distant expression in his eye, he said, "Bizarre. What is it?" 17 questioned his bigger friend. "I sense a different energy source that is quite similar to this one. Maybe it will lead to some answers," 16 said. "Or an escape route. Let's find it," 17 said. Fast forward. Before we found our way down here, we had to pass through a lot of tunnels and passageways. You and this seal appear to be the cause of whatever has happened. We were looking for this anomaly in Cell's energy in the hopes of discovering a way out," 16 concluded. There was a brief period of silence while Naruto assumed a contemplative stance and reviewed all 16 had said. Unintentionally, Dr. Gero produced a natural receptor for the nature chakra. You have a real soul that has been formed from the tiny amounts of nature chakra in your system since you were created, which would explain how your personality came to be. It is not a programming error. I was still in sage mode when I was absorbed. My nature chakra must have been flushed in Cell when I reactivated my seal, but you absorbed it and somehow allowed him to evolve rather than turning to stone. However, you also brought us all here. I'm beginning to sound like a nerd, so I've got to stop hanging around the dock, man. 16 was elbowed in the side by a smiling 17, who said, "Heard that, big guy? It appears that you are more than just a machine." 16 was preoccupied with the seal and did not respond to any comments. Reaching for the seal, 16 said, "Perhaps if we remove." "Don't touch it, please," Naruto forewarned, but it was too late. The moment 16's hand touched the seal, energy was released, and the android flew backwards into the wall. 16 looked at his smoking hand and moaned in agony, "Ah! How on earth was that?" 17 yelled as he hurried to help his fallen friend. "Since this is Cell's body, only he can remove the seal," Naruto declared. "It will react violently if anyone else tries to touch it." "Why don't you come out then?" 16 got back up and asked. A cunning smile appeared on Naruto's face as he said, "I can't, but you can come in." 17 was relieved that this time, Cell, rather than himself, was the target of the bizarre scheme that was developing in Naruto's mind and causing the recognizable cunning smile to emerge. Everyone sat in awkward silence for a moment until baby Trunks made his feelings known by throwing up on his unconscious father's chest despite the seriousness of the situation. Everyone, including Piccolo, burst out laughing at Vegeta's just desserts. Krillin broke up with Vegeta with Bulma and then assured the woman that everything was fine. The thing that was really bothering her was Naruto. She could understand 16 saving her, but she couldn't understand what her fellow blonde was doing. This was at least the second time he had saved her, and the second time was when he had saved 17 from being absorbed. Despite the humorous moment, 18 wasn't really sure what to make of her current situation. Sure, she had been spared from the fate of being consumed by Cell, but what was that really worth if he was going to end up destroying the planet anyhow? She asked herself, why did he do that? Since I can remember, 17 and I have been alone. Just the two of us looking out for each other due to our own misfortune. We ended up in the hands of that crazy madman, and then when we're finally reawakened, this guy just shows up out of nowhere and rips Jero a new one. Rewind. This is unbelievable. Since I created you, you must obey me. I transformed you from helpless orphans into strong, eternally living beings. Normally insignificant street trash is now a part of the new Red Ribbon Army. At the sharp increase in murderous intent from one of the Z fighters, the ranting doctor halted, and everyone turned to see Naruto looking down at him through red-slitted eyes. You're ruining all my plans for revenge and world domination. You're just Orochimaru and Madara combined into one Teme. I would have allowed them to kill you, Dr. Jero said abruptly as he sensed someone standing next to him. But as a former worthless orphan who succeeded in life, I can't let a bastard like you breathe again. Beside him, Naruto delivered a blow that sent the doctor hurtling in the direction of the original, who was waiting for him. Futon Rasengan. The doctor was ripped from head to toe by the attack, leaving only dust in its wake. Fast forward. Assuming that Bulma was the easiest person to talk to, she said, finding out some more information about him as well, wouldn't hurt. I don't have time to deal with my emotional baggage. I need to make sure these morons find a way to beat Cell. According to their files, several of them have been brought back by the Dragon Balls, so that means those 3 can be brought back as well. The sounds that reverberate across a battlefield are typically the thunderous blows of warriors exchanging blows, but in the case of Trunks and Cell, the only constant sound that could be heard was Cell's mocking laughter, which was beginning to get to Trunks as he persisted in his unrelenting attacks with nothing to show for them as Cell dodged his blows at every opportunity. Raah! As he missed a kick and lodged his leg deep into a boulder, Trunks yelled in frustration. What good is all this power if I can't hit my enemy? I've been such a fool. This must be why father stopped before achieving this level of the ascended transformation. He lost too much speed, but I need this power to do battle on an equal level. Damn it. Cell laughed condescendingly at him as he blew up the giant rock. Trunks, it appears that you have finally realized how hopeless your circumstances are. Really, it's a straightforward idea. Anyone can show off their strength by building up their muscles in this way, but it is pointless to do so against a speedier opponent, Cell sarcastically said. I'm not here for lectures, Trunks said, with a brief smile that quickly disappeared without Cell noticing. I know that. Unless, I'm ready to battle. Cell, are you too scared? Are you happy to simply flee from me? Cell trembled with rage and growled, why you? Come on, take the bait. Trunks thought Cell retaliated angrily. You conceited idiot. Alright. I suppose I'll have to pound this lesson into your thick skull. Good, Trunks thought when the Green Warrior resurfaced in front of Trunks. He struck the Super Saiyan's solar plexus. Trunks was unable to defend himself against the onslaught of punches that followed, and Cell completed his attack with a double axe handle that sent Trunks crashing into the ground, creating a huge crater. Blood gushed from Trunks' mouth as he gasped in agony from the painful blow. And Cell looked down upon him with his arms crossed in a smirk, pleased with his work. Are you not aware of it? You can hardly protect yourself? Cell gloated. The Super Saiyan had plenty of fight left in him, so Trunks took a moment to gather himself from the vicious assault before slowly getting back up. Is that all you've got? He asked, leveling his haughty opponent with a bored expression. Cell was enraged, saying, You dare? You have no right to make fun of me. I am far superior to you. Trunks simply kept staring at him, even pretending to yawn to make the android even more angry. Boy, you will pay tenfold for your impudence. Here's another tactic you should know very well, Kage Bushin no Justu. The technique's hand sign was formed by Cell, but before he could finish it, he felt a surge of power pulse through his body, which led to a completely different outcome as he was engulfed in a puff of smoke. Trunks stared blankly at his opponent until the smoke revealed something that nearly instantly knocked the Super Saiyan unconscious. A naked girl with pink eyes, outrageous curves, and busty green hair, with a few thin strands of smoke that left some of her body up to the imagination, but not much else. What on earth is this? A bewildered Cell yelled as he examined his body in strange ways, causing too much bouncing in all the right places, which knocked Trunks out cold with a huge nosebleed. This body is acting strangely. And my Clonisa, where are they? When the android turned hot chick looked down at last, she saw Trunks' twitching body on the ground, blood seeping from his nose. This is a method that works somehow, blurted a completely confused Cell. Naruto was on his knees hammering his fists into the floor as he laughed his ass off, and 17 was rolling around the wet floor laughing uncontrollably, leaning against the wall for support as his booming laughter reverberated throughout the cage. 16 muttered, "That was just oh my," in between chuckles. "My god. Did you notice Cell's expression?" 17, still laughing himself hoarse, gasped out. "Have you seen the Trunks one?" Naruto screamed. "We need to figure out how to do that once more," 16 yelled. A few minutes later Cell had reverted to his normal form and Trunks had regained consciousness, the duo silently agreeing to pretend that the previous incident never occurred as they resumed their battle. Cell now attacked Trunks with both ferocity and efficiency as subconsciously he tried to take his frustration from the incident out on Trunks. This time, however, Trunks was proving to be a tough customer. The Super Saiyan wasn't landing any blows on Cell, but the young fighter had adopted a strong defensive style, using his bulk to his advantage in blocking the attacks from Cell. Cell's annoyance started to show as less than half of his hits registered as clean blows after landing a particularly vicious shot to the face that sent Trunks skidding back several feet. Cell looked down on his opponent with an air of superiority. Trunks merely smirked at him as he spit out some blood before settling back into his defensive stance. His indifference to Cell's relentless assaults only infuriated the android even more. A snarling Cell thought, "I'll wipe that smirk off your face, boy," and charged forward, aiming to punch Trunks in the stomach before he could react. Trunks took the blow and skidded back to the island's edge, making a deep trench as he went. He righted himself on his feet and prevented himself from falling into the ocean. Now or never, Trunks thought after a few seconds of gathering himself and evening out his breathing. The Super Saiyan levitated himself off the ground slowly, his breathing slightly increasing as he stared down Cell. Then, with a sudden roar, his energy level skyrocketed as he brought his hands down to his sides behind his back, almost bending his body back at an awkward angle as he charged up his energy with his golden aura flaring violently. "What is this, I wonder?" As he observed critically, a curious Cell murmured. The atmosphere changed as heavy clouds began to roll in overhead rapidly, and as Trunks continued to yell as he powered up for his attack, the sea swirled violently behind him and the ground trembled as pieces of earth fell into the deep depths of the sea below. Lightning flashed across the sky as small rocks kicked up, and clouds of debris blew violently around the battlefield as violent winds began to pick. A small smile appeared on Cell's face as he watched two enormous blue orbs of energy form in Trunks' hands. "Cell, you've underestimated an ascended Saiyan's actual power," Trunks said. As the rock formations around the island crumbled under the force of Trunks' energy, Cell simply laughed in response as Trunks got closer to finishing his attack. Bioelectricity began to surge off his body. "Don't move an inch if you truly want to show that you're flawless," Trunks contested. With a smug smile on his face as he prepared himself, Cell whispered, "Bring it on." Buster Cannon. Trunks abruptly fused the two energy orbs in front of him, launching a tremendous energy blast straight at Cell. As the blast struck, Cell's assured look quickly changed to one of shock. "Oh shit." As Trunks guided the attack away from the planet and into outer space, the attack continued right through Cell, skimming along the Earth's surface. When the energy quickly subsided and some of the smoke cleared out, a trench was carved into the earth and ocean, the latter of which was soon filled in by water. Trunks breathed heavily and kept his arms drained and at his sides as he watched his work, still waiting for the smoke surrounding Cell's location to clear out. His patience was soon rewarded with a sight. As the smoke began to clear, a stunned Cell mumbled, "Ah." As Trunks saw a crippled Cell with the left side of the android's body completely destroyed below the neck, he couldn't help but smile. "Well, how do you like that?" he asked. "You really struck me." As he examined his body, Cell rambled incredulously, "Look at this you made me." With a contented grin, Trunks sarcastically remarked, "Serves you right. Take the arrogant expression off your face, or did you forget? Piccolo's regenerative cells are still a part of me," Cell declared. Even so, Piccolo was unable to bounce back from that much harm. Trunks said, "I've destroyed half of your body. My regenerative powers are far greater than his, and I'm willing to wager that my absorption of Naruto also helped them. Cell gloated. Trunks could only watch in horror as Cell used a sudden surge of energy to regain the body parts he had lost and lose his Super Saiyan abilities, returning to his normal form. Cell smirked condescendingly and said, "Pity, it looks I'm back to full strength, while you're out of gas." "What's happening?" "Trunks' power went way up then it dropped back to normal," asked Tien. With no nonsense, Piccolo declared, "The fight is over." "What are you saying?" With concern in her voice, Bulma asked. Cell has defeated Trunks. Although a sizable portion of Cell's body was destroyed by his attack, it wasn't enough, and he recovered, Piccolo said. Krillin thought, "Damn him. Gohan, Goku, it's up to you guys now, you're our last hope." His gaze strayed to the exaggerated time chamber. Gohan delivered a vicious shot to his father's stomach, but Goku persevered through the pain, grabbing his son and throwing him high into the air as the two Super Saiyans engaged in a toe-to-toe battle deep within the hyperbolic chamber under intense gravity there. They both began charging up energy attacks. Ha! Masenko U! Kamehameha! The warriors were in a deadlock after the two enormous energy blasts collided, and both of them released their blasts at the same time, resuming hand-to-hand combat a short distance away as the explosion went off in the background. As he held up his arm to Trunks, Cell thought, what to do, what a dilemma you've put me in. I honestly thought a Super Saiyan would fight more difficultly. I'm curious about one thing. How did you get to be so strong? You were no match for the androids not too long ago, but now you could have easily destroyed my half-perfect form. It's amazing that you could gain such strength and skill in such a short time. How did you do it, please? Do you really think you'll give up our secrets that easy? Trunks asked, staring at the android as if he were crazy. Cell waved away his aggression, saying, I don't need such methods myself. I've already achieved perfection. I just want to know if you could get stronger with more time. At this, the purple-haired half-Saiyan arched an eyebrow and asked, what's the difference? Like I said, I'm just curious. Cell shrugged. Where has Goku been hiding all this time, by the way? With a defiant gleam in his eye, Trunks replied, he's training right now to defeat you along with Gohan. If anyone will find a way to defeat you, it will be them. There's no denying that they will crush you. No, competition? The proverbial light bulb went off in Cell's head. That's it, a competition? What? A totally lost Trunks replied, think of yourself as fortunate because I'm giving you another chance. In 2 weeks, we'll have a tournament, Cell announced. What on earth are you talking about? Trunks shot back. You really have no clue, do you? Cell said, laughing at his lack of knowledge. The World Martial Arts Tournament was a competition that took place long before humans ever existed on this planet. I will bring it back to life and establish beyond a shadow of a doubt that I have no equal. I will fight each member of your team individually. If they challenge me, I'll take on your team's next challenger. After I prevail, obtain it right away. Gather as many combatants as you can. The more opponents you have, the better your chances of surviving. In a few days, I will make a decision regarding the tournament's venue, so keep an eye on the TV for updates. Television? His plan still baffled Trunks. What is he trying to do? It ought to provide excellent entertainment. Oh, and don't forget to pack a bunch of those sensu beans. Cell cried, I want to enjoy myself as much as I can. Trunks shook his head incredulously. I'm still not sure what you're attempting to accomplish. What's your point of view? What is this tournament's purpose? Are you merely attempting to entice us all to a single spot for an ambush? Always with your pessimism. You realize that not everything is the end of the world? Cell shot back. This tournament has no secret agenda. I've already shown that I'm unstoppable and can easily destroy this planet before I destroy the Earth and leave it behind. I want to extract as much as I can. I also want to fight against the best opponents on the biggest stage. Bring me Goku, please. Everyone will be watching me, and the tournament is sure to be a success, as I defeat Earth's greatest warriors one by one. I can't wait to see the terrified expressions. A horrified expression appeared on Trunks' face as he realized what Cell really wanted. That's it. That's how it looks, haha. It's going to be amazing, Cell yelled as he took off. What are you idiots standing around for? You need to go help Trunks, said Bulma. His mother had been anxious since Piccolo announced Trunks' defeat, praying that her future son would somehow live. The silence had grown too much for her after everyone had just stood around in silence for a few minutes. Piccolo assured him, don't worry, Trunks is still alive, he's on his way here. Krillin inquired, then what happened to Cell? A frustrated Piccolo answered, I don't know. After he regenerated, he stayed with Trunks for a few minutes before departing in a random direction. I really thought that this was it. Trunks has so much power, yet compared to the complete strength of Cell he is nothing. Krillin reassured him, calm down Piccolo, I'm sure we will find a way. With his fists clenched and lightning crackling around his forearms, Piccolo roared, what's there to be calm about while that monster still draws breath? Maybe, it's time that I took a turn in the hyperbolic time chamber, to ascend past my own current limitations. You forget that Cell has yet to face Goku. If anyone can find a way to beat him, it will be him, said Tien. Even so, Cell originally required 18 to be complete. She's here and he got Naruto and the other android instead, both far stronger than her. Who knows how deep his newfound powers truly run, Piccolo murmured. I'm surprised he got caught. You'd figure a crafty guy like that would have one more trick up his sleeve, Krillin thought. As he considered it, Piccolo muttered, maybe he did. Whether on purpose or accidentally, that man might truly be insane enough to attempt to destroy Cell from the inside. Whether he could pull it off is the question. So he wants a tournament? Seriously? Krillin asked, becoming perplexed. Piccolo snarled, I don't understand. Why is he doing this? Trunks clenched his fist and complained, it's all just a sick game to him. The fate of the world is just a toy for him to play with. When Trunks reached the lookout, he told everyone what had transpired following his conflict with Cell. They were all, to put it mildly, in disbelief. I thought for sure, you had him beaten. What happened down there? Replied Piccolo. Trunks responded, the new levels of Super Saiyan come at a cost. They drain stamina very quickly, and at maximum power my muscles became so big that it became hard to move. The only shot I had was tricking Cell into taking that last attack head on. I didn't think his regeneration abilities were that extensive. Vegeta came out of the lookout's shadows and exclaimed, serves you right boy, if it weren't for you and that other idiot, I would have beaten Cell already. Trunks arrived at the top of the lookout shortly after the Saiyan Prince had regained consciousness. He withdrew to the lookout's interior and listened to the various conversations to catch up. At least they were working together with everyone else towards a common goal. Your misfortune is your own doing. Tien responded with defense. Vegeta chuckled, fat lot of good that did them. Trunks was easily disposed of by Cell, and that other fool sacrificed himself to save a useless bucket of bolts. Still, in your epic failure, you've managed to do one thing right. An angry Piccolo screamed, really? And what's that? If it weren't for your meddling, Cell might already be dead. You've set the grand stage for me to beat that synthetic bastard at his own game. What greater humiliation than for him to defeat it at his own tournament of self-glorification? Vegeta exclaimed. Krillin laughed, yeah right, if anyone is going to beat Cell, it's going to be Goku. Vegeta laughed in mockery, that clown Kakarot doesn't have what it takes to reach this level of power. I bet that's why he hasn't come out yet. He hasn't figured out how to do it. You've never given Goku enough credit. It was him who reached the level of Super Saiyan first. After all, I bet his new powers will blow yours out of the water. Tien responded with defiance. You act like I'm going to stop here as soon as Kakarot and the brat are done. I'm returning to the chamber to continue my training, Vegeta said with a smirk. With a fierce, determined expression, Trunks pumped his fist and said, that's a good idea, I'm going back in as well. Vegeta sneered, not with me you aren't, Piccolo said, calm down, there are plenty of days left for everyone. Trunks turned and left the lookout for Master Roshi's island, saying, well, Goku and Gohan still have a lot more time left, I'll come back when they're closer to being done. After a few seconds, Vegeta left and returned to Capsule Corp. With baby Trunks in her arms, Bulma laid him down in his crib and said, thanks for coming back here with us. In his sleep, baby Trunks muttered, Gwa. Leaning against the wall outside the baby's room, 18 responded, it's way better than hanging up around there with all those idiots. I still don't think it'll be of much help. I don't really know too much about that old man's work, just a few basic things he informed us of. At the least we might be able to remove some of things he added to your body that you might not want. We can give you a full body scan and match it up with the blueprints we've found, said Bulma as she left the room. Blueprints? 18 asked, raising an eyebrow. Well, Naruto pretty much dragged everything from Jiro's lab over to ours. We're just looking for anything we can exploit. Bulma responded with a shrug. Who knows? Maybe we can give you an upgrade, and you'll be the one to kick all their asses. I'd love to rub that in Vegeta's face. Not a bad idea, said 18 with a sly smile. As he stood outside in front of a podium with all of the major TV and radio networks in the world gathered in front of him, Cell thought, what perfect timing. The android found something even better while searching for a live newscast at a television studio. King Furry was holding a huge press conference for a significant announcement. Cell now had the world's ears and eyes on him after vaporizing a few police officers and a bothersome publicist, and he planned to take full advantage of it. Announcing to the world, greetings people of Earth, I am Cell. I have a message for each and every being on this planet, so listen up. Your pathetic mundane lives are about to become very exciting. I've enjoyed my time terrorizing the earth so far, but it's time to take things to the next level. If you don't remember me, perhaps this will help. Cell's voice abruptly changed to mimic his flawed form, saying, perhaps you remember my exploits in Gingertown. Those people provided such rich bio-extract to help me evolve into the perfect form you now see. The live feed's reporters and cameramen were in disbelief. One of the reporters exclaimed, but that's impossible, in shock. Cell returned to his normal voice and said, I assure you, it is true. I am truly grateful that such pitiful lifeforms were able to become my stepping stones to greatness. Now on to why I am here. In a little less than 2 weeks I will be hosting a martial arts tournament. I've named this competition the Cell Games, because quite frankly the competition is all about me. Cell laughed at the perplexed expressions on everyone's faces. The tournament will be held in Sector Z-428, approximately 150 miles southwest of the site of the World Martial Arts Tournament. I personally have designed a state-of-the-art battle arena, similar to that of the original World Martial Arts Tournament. It will be the perfect stage for a perfect warrior such as myself. This will also mark the final day of existence for this planet. If none of Earth's fighters are able to defeat me, I'm going to destroy this planet after I'm done. In fact, I'll make sure to eradicate each and every one of you miserable creatures personally, declared a beaming Cell. This a load of crap, exclaimed one of the men in the group. Cell was engrossed in his speech and wasn't prepared for this kind of reaction. Huh? I don't buy it. You're just one guy. There's no way you could do that. The man screamed once more, causing nearby people to mutter inquisitively. After a moment of reflection, Cell scratched his chin and said, really? Well, perhaps a little demonstration is in order. Yes. That's it. I'll show you I can be more than one man. I've got an infinite army to summon at my whim. Prepare yourselves. Taju Kage Bunshin no Justu. The entire world gazed forward in expectation, waiting for the technique's smoke plume to clear and reveal what lay beyond. They wouldn't be let down because the moment the smoke cleared would live on in history as a source of both happiness and shame. 1,000 cells appeared in their naked, sexy just you forms, and almost all men and some women worldwide instantly fainted with massive nosebleeds while the clones began to grope and kiss each other. The original was looking around in confusion. Pigs? Complained Bulma as she gazed at the unconscious forms of Vegeta and her father. Blood splattered all over the floor, but the technique was undone by a huge collective shriek of pervert from the remaining awake women. At the scene, 18 shook her head and said, if I didn't know any better, I'd say those two idiots hijacked Cell's body and were behind this. From the floor, a half-conscious Master Roshi muttered, these Cell games don't sound so bad after all. He. The unconscious manifestations of Yamcha, Oolong, Trunks, Krillin, Tien, Chaozu, and even Turtle were gathered around him. 17 mumbled in amazement, I think we just pranked the entire planet. The enormity of it was dismissed by Naruto, who said, I've done better. 16 said, the more important thing is Cell is taking the bait. There's a problem. As I performed the technique, I sensed that it was a burst of power from an unknown source. I have to look into this right away. In some ways, this alternative transformation method is still very successful. What's the secret? Cell thought this before experiencing a sharp increase in his desire to kill and turning back to the task at hand. The android had a gut feeling that it was time for him to leave, but all the women present were about to give him a dose of righteous feminine rage. Cell began to laugh evilly as he shot into the air, saying, well, it seems I've gotten the message out. Have no fear, people of Earth. The end is near. After their initial target was eliminated, the women focused their anger on the men who were now regaining consciousness and attacked them. Leaning against a column close to the entrance to the hyperbolic time chamber, Trunks grumbled, how long are Gohan and Goku going to stay in there? Following the disaster involving Cell's announcement, Trunks went back to Capsule Corp for a few hours of rest and food before returning to the lookout with Vegeta. He assumed they would be out by now, based on his own training experiences. As he watered some plants, Mr. Popo said, they will be out shortly. It has almost been a full day. Vegeta remarked casually, I'm sure they will stay in much longer than that. They are training to reach my level after all. You're barely even on their radar. The only thing those two are training for is the defeat of Cell, replied Piccolo. Besides Vegeta, you've already had a turn. Why don't you take rest while I go in? Vegeta grumbled, that will be a waste of time. Surely you don't expect to compare to the power of a Saiyan, do you? I'll let you have your day, but to hell with that 2 days nonsense after you have had your go. The rest of the time is mine. You truly are a fool. Fine. I dare you to take all that extra time. See what happens, Piccolo growled. Stop bluffing. Vegeta shot back. I assure you, he is not bluffing if you remain in the chamber after time expires. The door back to this realm will disappear and you will be trapped inside forever, told Mr. Popo. You have no reason to worry, father, you left before I did. You still have a full 24 hours while I've got 23 inches, said Trunks. Vegeta was still upset about the loss of more training time in the chamber even after his son reassured him. His thoughts were interrupted when he and the others detected movement coming from the entrance to the chamber. They all heard the door close and then heard Goku and Gohan's footsteps coming out when the father-son team appeared in their Super Saiyan forms. Everyone was a little taken aback. They appeared entirely normal despite their Super Saiyan forms and were in perfect health despite their Saiyan battle armor being so ripped apart and damaged. As he extended his senses, Goku noted, "It certainly seems like Cell has taken things to a new level." As he did the same, Gohan said, "Not only has he gotten stronger, but his energy signature is radically different from before." Turning to the still shocked audience of Tien, Trunks, Piccolo, and Mr. Popo, Goku said, "Yeah, I almost didn't recognize it as him. It certainly seems a lot happened while we were gone. Someone want to fill us in?" Just before the growls from Goku's and Gohan's stomachs shook the entire lookout, a still shocked Tien muttered, "Sure, no problem." Sheepishly, Goku scratched the back of his head and said, "Hold on a minute with that, we could use something to eat first." Piccolo shook his head in disgust and grunted, "No shit." Still the same old Goku, Trunks chuckled and shook his head as well. "Perhaps to you, but he and the brat are very different from one another. It's clear that they understood the idea of preserving energy from transformations, but they also understood something else. I just can't figure it out," Vegeta thought frowningly. A few minutes later, Goku and Gohan were devouring the enormous feast that Mr. Popo had prepared for them. Goku was eating at an alarming rate as usual, but what was surprising was that Gohan was now eating as much as his father. Tien exclaimed, "Wasn't there enough food for you guys inside the chamber?" With his mouth full of rice, Goku looked up and began to respond, "Twagwaz Groot Mween. Goku, why don't you try again without your mouth full of food? Disgusting." Piccolo interrupted him. Goku licked his lips and swallowed the mouthful of food before adding, "I was saying that there was enough food, but Gohan and I don't cook very well, so it's been a while since we've had a good home-cooked meal." Gohan muttered, "To say that you're not cooking well would be an understatement. Yeah, one time I asked Gohan to roast some chicken and he blasted it into oblivion." Goku laughed at that. "Dad, you couldn't even make sandwiches without eating all the ingredients before you got finished, not to mention the time you burnt water." Gohan was deadpanned. Trunks gazed at Goku with disbelief, asking, "How?" With a snort, Piccolo interrupted, "Do you even need to ask?" While Gohan and Goku continued to eat, the others informed them of the current state of affairs. "A tournament?" Goku scratched his chin and muttered, "Well, I've got to admit, I didn't see that one coming. It does sound interesting though." Unprepared for this response, Trunks and Piccolo blurted, "Huh? Interesting? Mr. Popo, do you still have the clothes I left here before going inside?" Goku asked the lookout's caretaker. "As we went to get the clothes," Mr. Popo said, "Sure, I even washed them for you." The younger Super Saiyan went up to his friend and said, "Hey Piccolo, can you make me a new outfit?" The smiling Namek said, "Sure kid, the usual style?" Gohan replied, "No, something a little different. I want the GI to look like my dad's but flip the color scheme, and then a cape just like yours." In agreement with the choice, Piccolo nodded, saying, "Nice choice kid, it'll make you look real sharp." In an instant, Gohan's new uniform materialized as he raised his outstretched hand over his head. The blue pants and overshirt, the orange undershirt and wristbands, the black boots, and the white cape in the Piccolo style were all exactly as Gohan had requested. "Thanks Piccolo," Gohan exclaimed, examining himself. "Nice look, son," Goku grinned as he completed dressing himself. "Enough of the fashion show," Vegeta snarled. "Do you think you can beat Cell now, Kakarot?" Goku answered, "Who knows? We'll find out at the tournament. I might have a shot, but from what I can tell right now he would be the favorite." Piccolo reminded them, "You guys still have more time in the chamber. I don't think it will do any good for us Gohan, and I don't need another turn if the rest of you intend to face Cell. You should make use of the chamber," told Goku. Vegeta responded incredulously, "Yeah right, how could you possibly have surpassed my levels by that much? We could have beaten you at your current level after only a few months of training inside," stated Gohan. "Another day won't make enough of a difference for us. At a certain point you plateau with the same training. We should probably save the rest of our time for another emergency." "Couldn't have said it better myself. Let's pick up your mother and head home," Goku said, ruffling his son's hair. After a full day since his announcement, Cell stood proudly at the location of his state-of-the-art battle arena, admiring his creation in the event that someone could put up a good fight. He decided to double the size after initially making it to the World Martial Arts Tournament's requirements in this instance. The larger ring would give him the flexibility to employ every one of his strategies. As he hovered over the middle of the ring, he said out loud to himself, if the fight is really good, I could always destroy the ring and make it a fight to the death, but that seems unlikely. Now on to more pressing matters. Every time I tried to use those jutsus, I felt that other power source flare. It seems I must fully unlock this alternative energy in order to master those techniques properly, the android said, lowering himself to the ground and assuming a meditative position. His typical golden aura flared up around him as Cell concentrated on his energy. He tried to summon the alien energy for a few minutes before he sensed a pulse. Unaware that his golden aura had changed to a blue one, he whispered, "That's the way." Cell opened his eyes in shock as he felt the energy surge through his body and discovered that he was in what looked like a sewer rather than his battle arena. As he rose from his seat in the murky waters, Cell muttered in disgust, "What the hell? I meditate trying to find that foreign source of energy and end up in a sewer." He stood in a dimly lit area, and the android looked out into the darkness that stretched into emptiness. The walls were lined with strange, multicolored pipes that appeared to be pulsing from whatever was passing through them. Cell hovered slightly above the water and used his senses to locate the source of the energy flowing toward the direction of the sewage water farther down the passageway. Cell almost fell into the sewage below as the corridor trembled with the roar of some kind of beast before summing up his own aura and rushing down the hallway. Cell gave a quick grimace along the way. His golden aura lit up the surrounding area. Even louder than the first roar, the second one splattered some of the filthy water in Cell's direction, where it vaporized when it came into contact with his aura. He soon came to a dead end, and Cell came to a sudden stop. There was what looked like a cage in place of a rear wall. Cell looked like a gnat buzzing around in the cage. Because of its size, the android could only detect a strong sense of bloodlust permeating the space. It could not see what lay behind the cage before another thunderous roar that almost knocked the android on its ass was released. An enthralled Cell flew directly in front of the cage, getting as close as it could. The self-described ideal warrior gasped in wonder as two massive red slitted eyes appeared behind the cage while he was hovering in front of it abruptly. A massive paw tried to break through the cage and stab Cell with its claws, but it failed to reach the android's body. So near, a gritty, demonic voice snarled as the enormous claw withdrew back behind the cage. "Who are you? Who are you? Where are we?" The beast stepped back a bit and flared its power to illuminate itself, revealing the full form of the nine-tailed demon fox in all its glory, and its mouth formed a sinister grin as it demanded this. "Mortal, you ought to watch what you eat more carefully. That stupid ape you ate was much more than you could have ever dreamed of. Were in the back of your weak little mind," Kyuubi declared, "and I am the all-powerful Kyuubi no Kitsune." "This isn't feasible," incredulous, Cell cried out. "What nonsense! When that boy was born, he tried to control me by binding me to his soul and putting me in this cage with some stupid humans. Now that you've let him go, I'm the only one left," the fox cackled. "So, I don't have anything to be concerned about. It's clear that your bark is worse than your bite. I wouldn't care about you if you were the source of his power," Cell said nonchalantly. "I'm far beyond his level." Kyuubi responded by roaring angrily once more and thrashing against the cage. "Be careful with your mouth. I've done things you could only dream of and lived a lot longer than you could ever imagine," Kyuubi roared. "You are a pale compared to me. I am the ideal warrior," Cell roared. In his face, the fox chuckled. "Hey, I have no beginning or end. I am a true immortal. You have no control over me, even though I can't kill you." At the Kyuubi's next words, Cell turned to leave, but he stopped abruptly. "I've had enough of this." "You really are a moron for going out before I've even offered?" and the fox asked. "What are you able to give me?" an incredulous Cell asked. "What more could you possibly need to finish your evolution as a mortal warrior?" the fox answered. "I am whole." A rebellious Cell shot back. "Maybe physically your abilities are at their height, and you even have eternal youth, so they will never diminish, but you can still die," the fox said. Disbelievingly, Cell snorted. "That's absolute nonsense." "Is it? It is only one man, from one small part of this universe, who created you. In your universe, other universes, and even other dimensions, there are a lot more creatures. What gives you the impression that there isn't at least one more powerful being than you that could wipe you out as quickly as you could this planet?" The fox appeared to turn around and begin to back away toward the back of the cage, but Cell stopped him. "If you are truly that naive, then you are truly a waste of my time." "All right, what are you able to offer me?" Cell demanded. As it turned back around, the fox grinned like a cat that had just eaten a bird and said, "Immortality." "For what?" Cell asked. "Freedom. You get immortality and I get freedom when you take off that seal. It's very easy," Kyuubi said. How can I be certain that this isn't some complex hoax? You must be motivated by something other than freedom. Kitsunes are known to be cunning, Cell thought. Hey, for a prisoner, what is more important than freedom? The fox retorted, whether or not those are my actual intentions is irrelevant. You made the decision to accept the offer as soon as I did. Cell started to say, how, before being interrupted. I am aware that you were created from the cells of the Saiyan Prince Vegeta and the powerful Frieza 2 warriors who would never pass up such a chance. Your very existence is the result of their efforts to achieve this. It's in your blood, so you'll accept my offer, Kyuubi said with assurance. You're correct, but blood isn't involved. The android gave the smiling fox a final look before destroying the seal with a massive energy blast. To his surprise, the entire sewer began to tremble and crumble instead of the gate opening. If you fail to come through with your end of the bargain, I'll show you things that are far worse than death, threatened Cell as he floated over to the seal. What is this? Called for a furious Cell. Ha 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 ha, dull. After a brief pause, the fox's image changed to one of a single glowing purple eye with a black pupil, and then everything seemed to burst into a bright red light. After a good fishing session, Goku, Krillin, and Gohan simply relaxed on the soft, fresh grass beside the lake. At first, Chi-Chi was happy that her family was returning to normalcy for a short while, but she soon grew frustrated with the numerous accidents brought on by her husband and son's Super Saiyan strength, so she threw them out of the house for her own peace of mind after they refused to return to their normal forms once more. Krillin had followed them as soon as they arrived at the lake, but his real goal was to see how calm his friends were about the impending battle. He couldn't comprehend how calm they were about the battle, and he concluded that they must have some ace in the hole they were hiding back from everyone else. After cleaning up the mess from breakfast earlier that morning, Chi-Chi sighed as she swept the floor back home. I can't wait until this entire Cell business is over with, she said. Things can get back to normal once my boys have thoroughly beaten that monster. While Krillin idly skipped a few stones as well, he marveled at the mental and physical states of Goku and Gohan down at the waterfront. Goku had his arms tucked behind his head, his eyes closed, and a smile on his face as he listened to the sounds of nature. Gohan moved to the edge of the water and leaned down on one knee, skipping stones across the calm surface of the lake. As Krillin watched Gohan play with a frog and then turned back to watch a butterfly land on Goku's nose, he thought, despite the fact that they're Super Saiyans, they seem so peaceful, so in tune with everything around them. Is that the big secret? They've somehow managed to become normal. As a power source appeared, interrupting Krillin's inner monologue and almost making him shit his pants. He was so overcome by his senses that he stumbled backwards and fell on his ass, stammering incoherently, "Wah. What is that?" The calm atmosphere swiftly gave way to one of bewilderment as Goku screamed and bounded to his feet. The Super Saiyan was standing in a crouch, his eyes closed, and a frown on his face as he stretched out his senses. It's enormous. That is far too much authority, Gohan shouted, imitating his father's movements. It's getting out of hand. Oh no, if this can't be contained. Goku's voice trailed off, a horrified expression taking shape on his face. This is terrible. I believe it's Cell. He must have broken his word, Gohan said, his voice tinged with panic. CCCE Cell has this much power, Krillin stammered, still speechless. No, that's not Cell's energy signature, Goku said, shaking his head in disagreement. It looks like Naruto. However, that isn't feasible. Dude. The planet will blow up if this continues, Krillin yelled, clutching his head in exasperation. It's like the androids now, it just changed again. I can't pick it up, but I know it's there. Gohan knelt and hammered the floor in exasperation, said. We have to find out what's happening out there and stop it. We can't just stand around here any longer. Come on. Goku said as he got a nod of approval from Krillin, and his son Krillin took hold of Goku as the two of them raised their hands to their foreheads to execute the instant transmission, and then the energy signature abruptly disappeared from the Earth's surface. Goku stumbled and blurted, "Huh," in total surprise. Gohan scratched the back of his head in confusion and muttered, "Where did it go?" Cell's initial energy signature before the chaos returned a few seconds later, exactly where it had been before, and everything was as normal as if nothing had happened. Krillin sighed in relief, and the father-son Super Saiyan pair stared at each other with bewildered expressions, unable to understand what had just transpired. He said as he gently dropped back to the ground, "We're safe for now." Before Cell went and pulled this stunt, the Saiyan Prince was already tired of waiting for Piccolo to come out of the exaggerated time chamber, and he was on the verge of tearing out his hair as Vegeta paced back and forth atop the lookout. What on earth is happening out there? Cell first bursts with energy, and then it simply vanishes as if it never happened. This is insane, he shouted as he held back from punching a hole in the lookout. Perhaps Cell is merely attempting to trick us, suggested Trunks, who was puzzled. Tien raised his eyebrows in disapproval. If he wanted to do that, he'd flaunt his power level. That unstable burst of energy just made it seem like the solar system was about to go up in flames. Whatever is going on, it seems like Goku has gone to investigate, replied Trunks. Damn it. To vent his annoyance, Vegeta unleashed a tremendous energy blast into the sky, yelling, "What was I thinking letting that damn Namek go ahead of me?" That's what he's worried about, Tien and Trunks said as sweat drops trickled down their faces. Right in the center of the ring, a few meters from Cell, Goku came into view. The Super Saiyan scanned the area, finding nothing unusual and sensing no other energy signatures, while Cell sat in front of him, completely still and silent in what seemed to be a meditative trance. Goku relaxed a little and glanced around the arena. Goku whistled in appreciation of the location for their impending fights, saying, "Well, he certainly does know how to build a state-of-the-art fighting ring." "I'm grateful and now fully awake," Cell replied. "It pleases me to know that this place is up to the standards of an elite fighter like yourself, Goku. Here to scout out the competition?" The android appeared to have no memory of what had just happened, and Cell's statement nearly caught him off guard. Goku was able to conceal his surprise by responding in a casual manner, as though discussing the weather. "Yeah, something like that." Cell slowly stood up, and as he did, the two engaged in a silent sizing up, each attempting to gauge the immense depths of power the other concealed beneath the surface. Goku looked for any clue as to what had caused that previous power flare, but he sensed nothing from Cell. Even his thoughts and emotions seemed to be devoid of any traces of the incident, as if it had never happened. Silently, Goku said, "Every single one will be accounted for." He was getting ready to leave. "What was that?" Cell, who couldn't hear him well, asked. "Every life you've taken will be accounted for before the conflict is over." As he disappeared through instant transmission, Goku said, "You will pay for your crimes against the people of this planet." Cell gazed at the location from which he had disappeared with a chuckle. "Goku appears to have a lot to offer, at least for me. It appears that the games will be a memorable experience." Gohan returned with a frown on his face, and Krillin followed. "What took place?" Krillin inquired. "I have no idea by Cell's standards." Cell appeared completely normal, Goku retorted. "Did he reveal anything about his intentions?" Gohan asked. "No, that's what's even more bizarre. Cell seemed to have no idea that anything just happened," replied Goku. "What? How can that be?" asked Krillin. According to Gohan, either whatever he attempted to do caused his memory to be erased, or external factors played a factor. Neither of these explanations provides me with any solace. The entire situation is quite unsettling. Outside forces. I hoped it was inside forces for a minute there, but there was nothing to prove it, Goku thought. With a sigh and a headshake, Krillin muttered, "Why can't things ever go easy for us?" Goku started, "I don't know what's more troubling. The fact that Cell could seemingly produce that kind of energy, or that there's no way in hell he can control it," concluded Gohan. "Well, if he does accidentally blow himself up in the process of trying to win, we just have to make sure it's not on this planet," Goku laughed. "If you decide to pull off some half-baked scheme like that, make sure you have enough time to teleport away from the explosion too," Krillin said, laughing and shaking his head. "Yeah, I'm not going to be the one to have to explain to Mom why we have to go back to Namek to use their Dragon Balls to revive you again," Gohan responded. The two gazed expectantly at Goku, but he was already preoccupied with something else. "Dragon Balls, huh? Perhaps we ought to take some action to bring the people back to life here on Earth," Goku muttered thoughtfully. Every member of Earth's special forces prepared for the battle as the day of the Cell Games drew near, and Vegeta made the most of his training alone in the hyperbolic time chamber. The Saiyan Prince took his training to a new level, pushing the boundaries of his Super Saiyan abilities at every opportunity. To his annoyance, he felt himself reach the plateau that Gohan had previously warned of, and the gains from his intense training dwindled daily. Despite this, the proud warriors persisted, and even after his time in the chamber ended, he returned to Capsule Corp to continue training in the gravity chamber for a few more days. Trunks had similar problems to his father's. His second trip into the hyperbolic time chamber did not yield nearly the same amount of gain as the first, and he was also unable to overcome his speed issue. Thinking that, even though he was weak in one area, he still had enough in other areas to defeat Cell, he decided to take a different approach from Vegeta after leaving the chamber. Tactics would be his key to victory. With some foresight on the part of his grandfather, Trunks was able to study videotape of all of Cell's battles since they first encountered him using Dr. Gero's own spying technology. Trunks carefully reviewed the footage of every battle, attempting to uncover every potential weakness he could exploit against the android in combat. The Sun family's male members accomplished a great deal in spite of being constantly watched by Chi-Chi. Goku successfully finished Operation Dragon Ball Reboot. Following a brief visit to King Kai to locate new Namek, Goku was welcomed by the Namekians. At Elder Mori's suggestion, Dend, Gohan and Krillin's young friend, was chosen to be the new guardian of the Earth. When Goku and Dend arrived on the lookout, Mr. Popo was ecstatic to discover that the planet had a new guardian and that he had a new friend to spend time with the help of Mr. Popo. Dend brought back the old Dragon Balls with one change. Shenron now granted 2 wishes rather than 1. Piccolo divided his remaining time between getting ready for the battle cell and helping Mr. Popo train Dend in his new responsibilities as the Earth's guardian. They all knew that even though their Super Saiyan comrades would be doing the majority of the work in eliminating Cell, any one of them could be called upon at a critical moment to be the difference between winning and losing the fight, so the human members of the Z Fighters weren't ones to be counted out for this fight, also using the hyperbolic time chamber. Bulma had focused on her most recent project, 18. At first, under 18's guidance, Bulma set out to eliminate some of the nasty surprises and fail-safes Dr. Gero had hidden inside the female android, including a high-impact bomb that was separate from the self-destructing bomb that 18 controlled. It seemed that Gero was supposed to use this explosive device to detonate remotely from a close distance in an attempt to destroy an enemy that couldn't be killed through regular combat with all the risks removed. Bulma made some last-minute changes to Gero's design, and 18 was now more robust, faster, and more resilient than before. Unfortunately, there were other people who were, seriously, stepping it up in anticipation of a date with Cell in the ring besides Earth's Special Forces one day. Master Roshi's favorite midday workout program was interrupted by a special announcement. Gentlemen and ladies, he's here, Hercule Satan, the world champion. The announcer said this as Hercule leapt onto the stage, his hands raised in the shape of a peace sign, and began to play for the audience, who enthusiastically embraced his music. Hercule, 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 the crowd chanted. So, Mr. Satan, do you have anything to say regarding these next Cell games? The announcer inquired. I'm going to squash that jerk like the bug he is, so you can call me the Exterminator, Hercule roared. There you have it, everyone, Hercule. The winner. The Exterminator, most importantly, our hero, the announcer said. Hercule, 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 Hercule. The crowd chanted once more. Roshi muttered as he switched the channel. Well, there's one fight where I'll be rooting for Cell. Well, today is the big day, Krillin said, surveying the Earth from the edge of the lookout. Do we have a chance out there today? Are we just fooling ourselves, or what? Overlooking the former monk's query, Piccolo added his own thoughts. Cell has, for the most part, concealed the majority of his power because both Goku and Gohan have concealed their abilities. It is hard to determine the odds, although I'm not sure how much. I'm fairly certain that they are both more powerful than Trunks and Vegeta. As he entered the discussion, Den said, it is a good thing they have kept their power hidden if they are capable of beating Cell. What's the reason? Krillin inquired. Cell shares character traits with Frieza. If he knew for certain he was going to lose the battle, he might do something drastic like Frieza did back on Namek, Dend responded. Remembering Namek, Krillin shook his head and said, good point. I could see totally Cell trying to blow up the Earth for the sake of winning. As Tien joined them, Piccolo said, let's get a move on. They took off, and Krillin waved, right, hopefully we'll see you later Dend. As it soared over the horizon, Dend muttered, I'm counting on it. Asking impatiently, where's Vegeta? Gohan tapped his foot, it's time to go. Trunks met Gohan, Goku, 18, and Yamcha at the door and replied, Father already went ahead without us. Good luck. The Ox King said, shaking his son-in-law's and grandson's hands. Chi-Chi and her father were taken to Capsule Corp to witness the battle by Goku and Gohan. It was hoped that Chi-Chi's nerves would be lessened by a more comfortable location to watch the battle, but the Sun Matriarch had already passed out just before Goku declared it was time to depart. We don't need luck, all the hard work everyone has put in for this Cell doesn't stand a chance, stated Gohan. Bulma muttered, whoa, she was a little taken aback by the assurance that seemed to be emanating from Gohan in waves, as was almost everyone else but Goku. Let's roll, Goku ordered. Here we are just moments away from the start of Cell games and it doesn't seem as if anyone else has arrived to the challenge cell. The monstrous being continues to stoically stand in the middle of the ring, in great anticipation of what is sure to be a memorable day. It seems the only thing we are all waiting for is the arrival of our beloved champion Hercule. The champ days ago declared himself to be a guaranteed lock to win today's tournament. His words were interrupted by the sound of a helicopter flying overhead. As the helicopter descended, The camera panned up to follow it. The door flew open as soon as it touched the ground, and Hercule and several of his companions jumped out. The announcer exclaimed, "He's here! Our champion is here!" as Hercule hurried to meet him, and despite battling the recent controversy over his sexuality, one thing has always remained straight about our beloved champion. His path to victory in the martial arts ring is unparalleled. The undefeated world champion of martial arts takes no prisoners, and today he will prove that Cell is nothing but a minor blip on the radar screen. Oh yeah. That's right. Cell, with all his fancy tricks and special effects, doesn't hold a candle to real strength. I'm going to crush that amateur like wannabe magician he is, declared Hercule. Cell's gaze abruptly shifted to the sky, tracking a far-off speck that was drawing closer and closer. Cell chuckled quietly to himself. I should have expected Vegeta to be the first one in line. Vegeta landed at the edge of the ring with his arms folded across his chest, showing off his signature scowl, and having already changed into his ascended Super Saiyan form when he saw Hercule and his pageantry, he snorted in disgust and turned to look at Cell. The announcer said to Hercule, "It appears that we have an observer for today's match. How did he fly in like that?" "It's another trick. Cell probably hired a few guys to do some stunts and put on a good show," responded Hercule. "Sir, who are you? Why are you here? And most importantly, what do you think of the champ's chances in today's battle?" The announcer asked Hercule before hurried over to Vegeta and slammed the microphone in his face. Vegeta snarled, "Do you have a death wish? Get the fuck out my face," and shot the man a tiny dose of killing intent, which made him run back to Hercule. "What do you think, champ?" the announcer asked. "That guy's is insane. Must be nervous. Probably his first time in front of a TV camera. Perhaps I'll give him a few pointers after the fight," Hercule said, laughing at the question. "That's right, Hercule is not only a martial arts champion, but he began, but was interrupted by the shock of three more Revulsa: Piccolo, Krillin, and Tiana, who had flown in through the air. Vegeta grinned at them as they all landed next to her. The Saiyan Prince said casually, "Don't know why you three bothered showing up." Piccolo shot back, "I know better than to leave the fate in the world in your hands." Vegeta squinted at the Namek and then returned his focus to Cell. The confused commentator asked, There's three more of them? Where are they all coming from?" "It's just another one of those tricks, I tell ya," Hercule exclaimed. Cell turned to the last group to arrive and said, "Excellent, everyone is finally here," as he stopped gazing into the distance. The announcer exclaimed, "Wow, there is an even larger group of people flying in this time. How do they do it?" When Hercule saw 18 among the group, he immediately began to run his stupid mouth again, saying, "I get it. That woman is model and must be one of my adoring fans here to give me support. This guy's must be her security detail. Hey babe, you should definitely show up at the after party when we're done here." Hercule began to become anxious, the beads of sweat streaming down his face as he tugged at the collar of his shirt. It must be some new fad of special shoes or something. The blonde had to hold herself back from destroying the idiot's head. "Yes, it seems like there's a lot of romance and bravado in the air here today," the announcer said. Cell said, "Goku, glad you could make it," as the final 5 contestants touched down. Goku answered, "I wouldn't miss this for the world." Gohan asked, "Who's going first?" The announcer cut in, "Excuse me, but none of you are intending to compete, are you? It's obvious that the world champ will be going first. He's the only one who can beat Cell." "Are you serious?" Yamcha asked with a laugh. "Come on, that guy couldn't beat a fly?" "Yeah," Krillin snorted, "he's only the champion of one thing. Bad haircuts." Yamcha mockingly added, "Ha, what is that hideous thing supposed to be? A half fro?" "Such insolence!" the offended announcer cried. "And what? Do you presume one of you will be the ones to defeat Cell? Of course, you incompetent buffoon. Now get out of here, before I destroy you and your precious TV cameras," Vegeta yelled. Well, there you have it, folks. These competitors seem to believe our beloved champion is a joke, and that they will be the ones to defeat Cell personally. I believe they are scared put of their wits and are trying to cover it up with bravado. What say you, champ? The commentator and his cameraman said as they prudently retreated to the opposite side of the ring near Hercule. Hercule said, "I say you're exactly right, amateurs like these guys can't handle the spotlight." Vegeta snarled, "Why you?" But before he could react, Gohan began to approach Hercule and the announcer. Gohan said, "Don't worry, I'll handle this, and I just want to let all my adoring fans out there know that the champ will never let you down," Gohan said as he approached Hercule, who had just begun to perform once more in front of the cameras. Gohan pulled on Hercules' shirt and exclaimed, "Excuse me, Mr. It's not going to be very safe to be around here. You and your friends should probably clear out of here. Huh. That's funny, kid. You're a riot. Hercule chuckled while giving Gohan a back pat. I'm serious. The fight will be too much for untrained people to handle being around, Gohan replied with authority. Untrained people. That's classic, Hercule exclaimed, doubling over with laughter. He became aware that Gohan was being completely serious after a few seconds. Hercule questioned incredulously, don't you know who I am, kid? For several minutes, Gohan pretended not to notice him. The champion failed to notice the cunning grin that appeared on Gohan's face before he began acting as though the phrase, "Oh yeah," suddenly occurred to him. That's right, kid. Gohan interrupted Hercule. With an accusing finger, Gohan exclaimed, the guy from that Gero's mechanical hose commercial. Hercule exclaimed, yeah. The what? Wait a minute. That was a hoax. Gohan kicked Hercule in the family jewels and sent him flying into a nearby mountain, shouting, my mom taught me how to deal with people like you, pervert. That's my boy, Gohan. At that time, it was audible all over the world. As he walked back towards his friends, Gohan grinned and said, that should get rid of him for a while. Yamcha gave him a high five. Goku shook his head, attempting to contain his laughter, and Vegeta and Piccolo smirked at him. Krillin said, I think Naruto has rubbed off him way too much. 18 complained, that oaf deserved it. Hopefully now he can't reproduce anymore. Now that the champion buffoon is out of way, who is going first? Replied Piccolo. Yes, who indeed? A curious Cell added, isn't it obvious? Vegeta said with a sly smile. I will not be denied this opportunity. These fools interfered with my plans last time and look what happened. You ate 2 of them and beat down another. No more interference, this is my time. The leaders of the group, Goku and Piccolo, appeared to be engaged in a private discussion as everyone else turned their attention to them. Goku shrugged after a few seconds, and Piccolo nodded slightly, letting Vegeta take the lead without any opposition. To his father and mentor, Gohan muttered, you know he can't win, why are you letting him fight? Goku nodded in agreement as Piccolo responded, he'll be more useful down the road, after he's beaten. In the case that we actually need his help, in his mind it must be proven that he can't win on his own. As Vegeta landed across from him in the ring, Cell said, well, Vegeta, it looks like you're finally getting your shot. I recall you making a lot of bold predictions before, only for you to be taken out of the battle by your own son. Perhaps you're not as good you claim to be? As Cell anticipated, the Saiyan Prince's remarks angered the Vegeta, but instead he just gave him a blank stare as though gauging Cell's value. Vegeta muttered softly, fool. The Saiyan Prince began to speak in a calm yet harsh voice, gaining momentum and volume as he went forward. I am the descendant of the royal Saiyan bloodline, the greatest warriors of our proud ancestry. I was born with the destiny to become the most feared fighter who ever lived. For a long period of time my potential was stunted by the likes of Frieza, allowing fools like Kakarot to surpass me in power. There was no greater humiliation for me than to be brought back to life and see that some third-class moron had ascended into the record books, not only claiming my birthright, but also taking the pleasure of eliminating the bane of my existence. Vegeta's golden aura erupted around his body as he clenched his left fist and snarled. Blue electricity crackled around it. His voice came out almost like a snarl as he started to speak again. Then those ridiculous machines came along, the tinker toys of obsessed madman sent to destroy us all. I was forced to sit and watch as a mere child obtained the pinnacle of power of our great race. All my life I worked so hard to obtain what was only thought to be myth, only to watch a half-breed child to surpass me in a blink of an eye, almost effortlessly. But you, the greatest abomination of them all, emerged, claiming to be the perfect warrior. Supposedly forged from the cells of the greatest warriors in the universe, you are the biggest insult to us all. You have no strength of your own, stealing from even the weakest being on this planet. You are an affront to all warriors, who have lived by nothing but their own strength, and you dare to claim to be the greatest warrior, the perfect warrior? No more. You are nothing more than a leech, stealing the power of others and claiming it as your own. I will erase you from existence. A bit self-righteous, aren't we, Vegeta? Cell replied with a wry laugh. That from a coward who fled and hid until he could steal enough power to survive. Vegeta shot back with a snort. Tien was nearly speechless on the sidelines, saying, I didn't realize this was so personal. For a man who values his pride and individual strength so much, I understand, said Trunks. I would be lying if I said there's no personal satisfaction in taking down someone who has stolen from me, said Piccolo. The battle against Frieza was a pure fight for survival. This battle, there is more to it than that. A piece of every one of us is inside Cell, to have some bastardized clone beat the originals. Goku and Gohan both said at the same time, it can't, won't be allowed to happen. As his own golden aura erupted around his body, Cell said, well then Vegeta, let us begin. The two immediately left their positions and engaged in fast-paced combat. The quick bursts of light and the crackling sound of the thunderous blows colliding were the only signs of battle visible to the untrained eye. The two appeared in the northeast corner of the ring one moment, with Vegeta using his forearm to block a kick from Cell. Then they were on the south side, with Cell halting a vicious punch in its tracks. After a few more minutes of their fast-paced dance, the two repositioned themselves on opposite sides of the ring. With a sudden leap towards Cell, Vegeta threw a right-handed jab that Cell easily blocked before he took a few steps back to put some distance between them. When Vegeta lunged forward for another blow, Cell disappeared and resurfaced in front of Vegeta, elbowing Vegeta in the solar plexus before his blow went through an afterimage. Vegeta reappeared above Cell, trying to kick Cell's neck vertically while his body was upside down. Additionally, his attack was unsuccessful. It went through an afterimage as Cell appeared directly behind his opponent and kicked Vegeta in the back with a spinning motion. Vegeta leapt at an ungainly angle toward the ground, but he managed to catch himself by extending his hand and performing a backflip to get back on his feet. With a quick barrage of punches and kicks, Cell quickly gained the upper hand and closed in on the Super Saiyan. With the Saiyan on the defensive, Cell was able to deliver some strong blows despite Vegeta's best efforts to block most of them. A particularly vicious shot to the throat caused Vegeta to gasp in agony, and Cell capitalized on the moment by landing a swift double punch to the gut that knocked his opponent off balance. With a mad smile on his face, the android seized Vegeta by the front of his armor and posed dramatically while he coiled his arm for a power punch. Vegeta swiftly grabbed Cell by the shoulders and delivered a vicious headbutt that sent the large insect reeling backwards, making him pay for his showmanship. Trunks said, "Nice recovery right there." In disgust at what he was witnessing, Gohan snorted, saying, "This fight is a joke right now, it's so sloppy." Piccolo growled angrily, "Can we all agree going forward to skip the damn warm-up?" In agreement, everyone shook their heads. Vegeta stretched out his fingers, causing his knuckles to pop loudly, while Cell worked out a few kinks in his neck by rolling it. "I must say, for all the talk surrounding your supposed perfection, I find myself disappointed. It seems all the extra crap that fool through has weakened the true source of your power," Vegeta replied with a smirk. "What? Your cells? Huh. I find it highly amusing that the self-proclaimed pinnacle of Saiyan power, pinnacle of Super Saiyan power, finds himself feeling so smug after getting roughed up by a mere fraction of both my power and skills. Counting myself, you're currently the dead last of all Saiyans," laughed Cell. Vegeta exploded with energy and yelled, "The robotic sensors you inherited from those other two pieces of junk are obviously malfunctioning, android." The ring underfoot trembled, and his golden aura flared violently around him. When it comes to Saiyan power, no one compares to Vegeta. UAAHHH. Cell shifted to block Vegeta's feinted punch as he sped forward, but Vegeta took advantage of the opening by sweeping Cell off his feet and then rolling into a double kick that sent the android flying. Quickly resurfacing in the air above Cell, the Saiyan Prince struck down with a double axe handle, sending the android hurtling toward the ring's edge. Vegeta retracted his arms and fired two medium-sized energy blasts at the target, which caused an explosion at the point of contact directly on the ring's edge. Cell sarcastically remarked, "I should really watch myself." Almost got knocked out of the ring. As the smoke cleared, he was seen hovering just above the ring's edge in perfect condition. "You'll have to do better than that, Vegeta." The Saiyan smirked and then vanished from view without saying anything. The android's back was slammed into the arena floor when Vegeta reappeared beside his opponent, seized Cell by the arm, and spun around. Cell swiftly recovered, bringing his legs back and slamming his feet into Vegeta's chest. Cell vanished from view as the Saiyan shot into the air, only to reappear high above Vegeta, his hands in a triangle. Tri-beam. Ha! In midair, Vegeta moved and launched his own blast in retaliation. Gallic Gun. When the attacks reached a standstill halfway through, the two swiftly stopped using their energy blasts, which simultaneously caused an explosion. They swiftly resurfaced in the midst of the explosion's smoke, fighting hand-to-hand at high speed until Vegeta was able to overwhelm Cell and send the android crashing into the arena floor. The two kept trading blows with neither appearing to gain the upper hand. "Is this all you've got?" Vegeta asked, laughing as Cell slowly stood up. "Well, see how much you're laughing when I start using my real strength," replied Cell. "You're bluffing," Vegeta said, shocked. "Am I?" a smirking Cell asked. Cell challenge, "What do you say, Vegeta? Shall we take things up a notch?" A defiant Vegeta shot back, "Okay, then, show me what you've got. With an evil smile on his face, Cell said in a somber tone, hopefully you can keep up. A reddish gold aura erupted around the android, who moved into a powering up stance and began to roar as his energy level increased. Green bursts of bioelectricity crackled around the area as he powered up. The tiles of the ring near Cell rose shakily from the ground and circled around him. Vegeta refused to be impressed by the show of strength and held his ground. As he lifted his arm to protect himself from the debris kicking around the arena, Yamcha exclaimed, I knew Cell was holding back, but man, this is unreal. As the swirling winds from Cell's power-up subsided, Tien added, I've got a feeling this is only the beginning. The aura surrounding the android's body subsided, and the tiles on the arena floor briefly paused before falling back into position. This is what you asked for, Vegeta, show us what you're made of, said Piccolo. Vegeta said nonchalantly, so you've managed to raise your power level a little bit, big deal, hopefully, I'll manage to break a sweat now. At that statement, Piccolo snorted, this fight is over. What are you talking about? Krillin asked, a little shocked. Cell raised his power level, but they are still about dead even. Cell made a big show out of raising his energy level to make it seem like it was a lot of effort, but that is all it was. A show. He's still concealing the bulk of his energy, Goku said with an even voice. Vegeta charged Cell, unleashing a barrage of fast-moving punches as his golden aura flared around him. Cell easily deflected each blow even though he was pushed backwards across the arena. Cell leapt to avoid Vegeta's unexpected double kick as they got closer to the ring's edge, but Vegeta quickly recovered and launched another frenzied barrage of punches into Cell's face. Even though Cell was still able to defend against the ascended Super Saiyan's attacks with ease, he was still pushing the android backwards. You dare to try and play me for a fool? Vegeta roared. His aura erupting around him in a violent flare, he extended his arms and blasted Cell with a quick barrage of elliptically shaped energy bursts. There was a lot of reddish smoke produced as a result of the attacks, connecting and setting off explosion after explosion. Vegeta charged up one large sphere of energy with his right arm and dropped his left arm back to his side, stopping the rapid-fire attack. The Saiyan Prince yelled, "Big Bang Attack!" as he detonated the blast, which struck directly and caused a massive explosion. Vegeta smirked confidently as he gazed at the outcome of his attack now. From the rapidly dissipating smoke came the pompous chuckle of Cell, and this was soon replaced by a snarl of anger. Everyone saw Cell in perfect condition for a moment, in the middle of the smoke and rubble. Tien cried out in shock, all of that and he doesn't even have a scratch on him? Yamcha shook his head and said, I know Cell is strong, but this is just ridiculous. After scowling and examining the scene critically, Piccolo said, Vegeta needs to be on guard. Cell is trying to make angry, so he'll fight sloppier. Good, then this fight will end sooner rather than later. It's a waste of time, and the more it lingers on, Vegeta increases his chances of getting himself killed, Gohan grumbled. Maybe not, Goku shot back. It would be more useful if Vegeta could drag this out, getting Cell to show as much as possible. Gohan looked at him with disapproval. Not really. Cell has no unique fighting style of his own. The only thing he's shown so far is a mix and match of the styles of everyone he's been created from. He's able to blend and switch between them flawlessly, but he's not showing anything we haven't seen before. Gohan's right, he won't have anything in his arsenal that is original. It's not part of his design. He can only reproduce what has been put inside him. The basis of his movements are similar to Frieza and King Cold's, since that's what his body structure most resembles. Everything else is a combination of known styles, said Trunks. With the intention of punishing the android for his impudence, Vegeta charged into the still visible smoke. To avoid the follow-up move, Cell simply disappeared into another area of the smoke, avoiding his high kick that was aimed at his chest. After a speedy recovery, Vegeta delivered a power punch that caused Cell to laugh at him. Vegeta cursed a few times in frustration as Cell disappeared into an afterimage. Cell was nowhere to be seen, so Vegeta flared his power to finish dispelling the smoke. As the Saiyan Prince looked around wildly for his opponent, he looked up to see Cell grinning condescendingly down at him. Vegeta was furious, but before he could respond, Cell went down to the arena floor, and Vegeta followed. I was hoping you could provide some more entertainment, Vegeta. I find myself sorely disappointed in your performance, said Cell. Funny, I was just thinking the same thing. I came here to fight, not participate in some childish hide-and-seek competition. All you've done is run and hide since your big power-up, Vegeta replied. Very well, perhaps this will be to more of your liking. Cell then made a quick horizontal slashing motion, causing his hand to briefly glow blue. As an arc of energy sailed through the area his head had just occupied, Vegeta fell quickly to the ground. The arc proceeded to travel a considerable distance, eventually splitting cleanly through a mountain after passing through a number of rock formations. Vegeta attempted a backflip, but Cell's spear tackled him in the middle, sending him flying over the ring's edge. Cell super sped ahead of Vegeta and kicked him high into the air, almost faster than anyone could pick him up. Vegeta barely had time to collect himself when Cell materialized behind him and gave him a sharp elbow to the back. Vegeta's body bent awkwardly around Cell's arm, and he cried out in pain and coughed up some blood out of reflex. The Saiyan then crashed into the arena floor as Cell swiftly turned his body and nailed Vegeta with a spinning kick in precisely the same spot. Thank you for the warm-up, Vegeta. This first match to kick off the Cell games has been quite fun, but there's no need to drag this out any longer. I'm ready for the next challenge, said Cell as he gazed at Vegeta. Vegeta struggled to stand up and snarled, throwing in the towel so soon? He stumbled to his feet and then fell to his knees, slapping angrily at the tile underfoot. I'm not done yet. Cell pointed his arm directly at Vegeta as a tiny spiraling ball of energy formed in his palm, still the prideful Saiyan prince to the bitter end. I guess I'll have to put you out of your misery. Take some solace in the fact that your comrades will be joining you soon enough. The ball's size suddenly grew exponentially, almost double that of Cell. Ha ha ha. Here's a one-way ticket to the next dimension. Odama Rasengan. Father, Trunks exclaimed. Get out of there, Goku screamed. Damn it. Piccolo snarled. Vegeta stubbornly mustered his last strength and prepared for the impending attack. In a last-ditch effort, the Rasengan had a powerful initial impact, and Vegeta barely held it at bay. Vegeta roared, "Ah!" as the attack began to push him backwards and the arena floor began to churn beneath his feet, creating a crater. Cell gloated, "Ha ha ha. Enjoying your last moments, Vegeta? This must be hard for you with all those wounds. I bet this really makes them burn." Vegeta began to feel overpowered as Cell abruptly applied more force to the attack. The Rasengan had ground away at every point of contact with his body. In addition to chewing through his dwindling energy reserves, his hands were gloved, and the armor on his left shin and forearms had torn away, exposing his bloodied and raw skin to the assault. He forced himself to endure the pain by biting his lip. I know Vegeta is tough, but this is just plain insane. He's going to die, said Krillin. Trunks begged, I don't care about your stupid pride. Let us help you. Vegeta remained silent, totally absorbed in the work at hand. When Cell saw him, he laughed and said, So long, Vegeta, before saluting the Saiyan Prince. The Ascended Saiyan was totally overpowered by the Rasengan, which abruptly doubled in size. Vegeta tried to stop the spiral sphere with a final outburst of energy and a roar, but it was ineffective. With the last of his strength gone, his hair turned black on the sidelines. Goku and Gohan exchanged an almost undetectable signal before the father and son disappeared from sight. They materialized beside Vegeta almost immediately, with Goku snatching the unconscious Saiyan Prince before disappearing from sight. Gohan gave the giant Rasengan a thunderous kick after yelling, Hoo-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah-ah- giant attack blasted off his leg and hurtled skyward before exploding into multiple tiny energy blasts that scattered throughout the surrounding area and caused a series of tiny explosions. What just happened? Krillin asked, gaping at the scene. Tien cried out, I didn't even see them move, what speed? Who cares about speed? Did you feel the power in that kick by Gohan? And it looks like it barely took any effort. Yamcha shouted in disbelief. 18 thought, that wasn't normal speed. My sensors couldn't even follow their movements. Still unable to comprehend what had transpired, Krillin exclaimed, BB but? How? When? Where? I missed the whole thing. Cell frowned as he looked around the arena floor, taking in the scene before him. How did they accomplish that? It wasn't until they showed up beside Vegeta that I even noticed them moving. With one good eye, a panting Vegeta gazed incredulously at Gohan. He believed he caught a glimpse of Gohan's actual strength for a single moment. How could that brat have so much power? It isn't feasible. Unless, a battered and bloodied Vegeta thought. Leaning against Goku and fighting to remain conscious interspersed with deep breaths, Vegeta exclaimed, TTH that brat of yours, Kakarot. Vegeta only managed to say, he's the legendary, before passing out. The legendary what? Goku asked, perplexed. He certainly is talented, overcoming my attack in such a manner loaded with such potential at that age. Said Cell, too bad he won't be able to realize it. Goku quickly stepped back over the Z fighters and gave Trunks and Tien Vegeta. With haste, the two proceeded to prepare Vegeta a Sensu Bean. Vegeta was strong enough to enable me to get enough of a glimpse of Cell's power, Goku said, turning back to his son, who had not yet left his position where he had knocked away Cell's attack. There is only one person here who is strong enough to defeat him, so it appears that my suspicion was correct, though I didn't anticipate it happening so quickly. I knew my son would eventually surpass me during our preparation for the android's Gohan. Go get him. Before turning to face Goku, Cell said, "You intrigue me, boy, but I can have some fun with you after I get the fight I came here for." Goku. Let's kick off round 2. Before his father could react, Gohan abruptly returned high above the ring, stretched his right arm out, and threw an energy blast right in the middle of the ring, saying, "No, there will be no more rounds, no more games. You must leave the ring," yelled Piccolo. "Everybody move," Goku yelled as he darted to the opposite side of the ring to raise a shield in support of Hercule and his entourage of onlookers. A strong but controlled explosion was caused by the blast cell's state-of-the-art arena had been totally destroyed by the smoke that exited it, leaving behind a typical battlefield in the style of a rocky wasteland. With a displeased expression on his face, Cell materialized in midair a short distance away from Gohan and said, "You destroyed my ring. You insolent child, I'll make you pay for this." To Cell's disbelief, Gohan responded with a, "The Cell games end right here. Right now you've been trying to loot us with this ring and your demeanor. This isn't a game. You were trying to kill us for sport. And we are trying to destroy you. Stop trying to make this seem like something it's not. For your own amusement. Taking pleasure from tormenting weaker beings is pathetic. Especially for someone who claims to be the perfect warrior. If he's trying to piss off Cell, he doing a bang-up job. Where did his brain go?" said Krillin. Piccolo responded by saying, "It may not seem like much, but destroying Cell's ring good thing by making this appear to be a fighting tournament. It subconsciously changes your mentality when you fight. This puts an end to all Cell's mind games by bringing everything out into the open. This is not sport, it's a fight to the death. Winning the mental edge is half the battle. This whole ordeal started out as us fighting on Cell's terms. Now we've flipped the script on him," said Trunks. "Great tactical move. Goku can now demonstrate his confidence to us," Piccolo thought. When you think about it, with the sharp mind he's developed from all the knowledge Chi-Chi packed into his head combined with the ridiculous fighting skills he has for his age, Gohan's going to be really scary when he gets older," stated Yamcha. "When he gets older? Look at him now," Chen snorted. "So it seems that there's even more to you than meets the eye, young Gohan, but I doubt it's enough to match me." Cell looked at Gohan for a few moments in mild disbelief before laughing and saying, "One thing is for sure, you've just signed your father's death warrant. Come on, Goku. Let's get this show on the road." Backing down from an obvious challenge, Cell? "Don't tell me you're scared of Gohan?" chided Goku. A shocked Piccolo blurted, "Goku, have you lost your mind?" Cell burst out laughing, scared. "What? Don't tell me, don't tell me. You expect me to fight this child? Hiding behind your own son, Goku? Perhaps Dr. Gero misjudged you. Are you that big of a coward? As much as I wish this were not the case, I am not the fight you are looking for. If you want to fight the best, then Gohan is the one," declared Goku. Cell cried out, "Yeah right. This must some sort of scheme." "He's not lying. I am the most powerful fighter on this planet," stated Gohan. Yamcha blurted in surprise, "What? That's impossible," Piccolo yelled. Incredulous, 18 said, "There's just no way. You've got to be joking. You're in on the charade as well?" chuckled Cell. By this time, everyone's claims were almost in agreement with Hercule and company's madness. The announcer said into his microphone, "I don't think I heard that young boy correctly. He couldn't possibly have claimed to be the greatest fighter on this planet. What say you, champ?" Hercule began to think. "Well, the kid's got talent, that's for sure, but he's still rough around the edges. I underestimated him earlier, of course, and once I'm healed up from this injury, I'd be happy to teach him a thing or two after I take down Cell." "Yes," the announcer said doubtfully. "And how much longer until you're ready?" Hercules laughed nervously and began to perspire. "Groin injuries are a bit tricky. Give it another hour or two," he said. "Well, there you have it, folks. Another hour at least until the champ takes down Cell. In the meantime, this talented amateur prodigy intends to give Cell his best shot," said the announcer. Hercule complained angrily, "I never called him a prodigy." Krillin whispered, "Goku, this must be part of your great plan or something, right?" "Silence all of you fools," yelled a revitalized Vegeta, but he interrupted them, saying, "It's not up to you fools to determine anything. Only Kakarot was in the chamber with the brat, and he wouldn't bluff about his own son's strength. Especially when in comparison to his own, he would never let an inferior warrior take his place." People turned to him to vent their frustrations. Everyone stepped back at this declaration and looked at Gohan more closely. Most of them would still think of him as a kid, but after giving him a closer look, they saw that this couldn't be further from the reality. Angry at himself, Vegeta snarled and balled his fists, saying, "The stage is yours now, brat. Don't make me regret giving it to you. I had also been sucked into the idea that this was just a power struggle. I ought to have been reverting to the attitude I had on Namek now. Prove to me that you are who I believe you to be." Strongest fighter on this planet, that's a pretty bold claim, said Cell. Let's see if you can back it up. Cell fell to the ground, and Gohan followed suit. Landing on the ground a considerable distance apart, they merely assessed one another by exchanging calculating looks after switching to a power-up stance and unleashing the floodgates. Cell grinned, his aura of reddish gold erupted around his body, and the whole place began to tremble under the force of his power. Everyone in the vicinity soon realized how much he had actually been hiding previously. Do you understand what you're up against now, boy? And whatever foolish plan your father is trying to employ and step aside, no mere child could possibly compare to me, declared Cell. In response, Gohan arched an eyebrow and asked, is that a fact? Gohan's voice began as a low roar but soon picked up speed as he let loose his power. As smoke, wind, and debris began to swirl wildly around the area, the young Super Saiyan released a golden pulse of energy as Gohan's energy caused some nearby rock formations to crumble and crack. Lights flashed around the area. His power grew alarmingly until it matched Cell's own output, and then it tapered off as the familiar golden Super Saiyan aura flowed smoothly around his body, leaving everyone in a state of shock. I might have miscalculated this one, but such power will be a great challenge, Cell thought. Very well, young Gohan, any last words before we begin? Gohan replied with a snort, yeah, I'm gonna give you to the count of 10, to get your ugly, yellow, no good keister off my planet before you end up in front of King Yima dead. Cell blurted in surprise, what? 1. Gohan started. Cell shot back, huh, maybe the big stage is a bit much for you, boy. 2. Gohan went on. Now, with a patronizing laugh, the android said, you're clearly struggling. 10. Gohan shouted as he abruptly disappeared. You? Cell couldn't finish the sentence before Gohan struck him in the face with a spinning kick that came too quickly for him to react to. Cell was launched into the air by the kick, but before he could fly far, Gohan reappeared beneath him and kicked him twice in the chest, sending him straight up. Cell briefly rose, and as he was about to stop, Gohan reappeared beneath him. Cell was unable to respond to the young Super Saiyan's vicious volley of fast-firing punches because they were all delivered too quickly. Each time they struck, the blows were so strong that they left Cell's body with deep fist-sized indentations. Before catching the enormous insect by the leg and spinning him around for a few spins, he completed the attack with a punch that almost collapsed Cell's face. The self-described ideal warrior was headed straight for a high-speed collision with the ground when he eventually let go of Cell. As he reached ground zero, Gohan blasted him with a barrage of fast-firing energy blasts. Gohan threw a single, enormous ball of energy to start a huge explosion, capping off his opening sequence as he sank to the edge of the crater formed by his labor. His cape fluttered in the wind behind him. He appeared to be a strange cross between a young Goku and Piccolo, with his arms folded across his chest, a frown on his face, and a white cape flapping behind him. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear him mutter, "Keep the change, you filthy animal." The technique, the attitude, the power, and the resolve. When he first turned into a Super Saiyan and faced 17, I thought I had seen it all, but it appears that was just the beginning, Piccolo thought. Krillin exclaimed, I've never seen him enter combat like this before. What the hell happened in that chamber? Goku. All Goku could do was twitch his lips in a fleeting smile. No, it began earlier. Goku was able to bring him to maturity, but ever since he turned into a Super Saiyan, Trunks felt as though he had suddenly grown into a man. A dazzling burst of light revealed a battered and bruised Cell rising from the hole in the earth. He squinted at Gohan's irritated expression, as though Cell wasn't even worthy of his attention. As his body restored the external harm caused by Gohan with a surge of energy, Cell exclaimed, "Don't get too cocky, boy, you just caught me off guard." Goku noted, Piccolo has the stamina and healing of Naruto to maintain top form throughout the duration of a fight, in addition to his ability to regenerate from major damage. Cell threw out his arm and shot Gohan a ball of blue, crackling energy in response. The youthful Super Saiyan flicked the attack back at Cell with his finger in order to allow the returned blast to blast the sail past and destroy a nearby rock formation. The android cocked his head to the side. Gohan looked at him with disdain. "I told you, no more of your stupid games. Stop trying to be a Frieza wannabe and toy with your opponent. You keep sending out that weak shit. I'll send it right back where it came from." Chi-Chi fainted into her father's arms as he laughed uneasily. "My Gohan swearing? On live television in front of the entire world? Oh Goku, you turned him into a hooligan? Oh man. Those two might be better off letting Cell win now, so they don't have to deal with Chi-Chi afterwards," chuckled Master Roshi. Bulma shook her head, shocked, and then looked at her own son. Her son is fighting for the fate of the world. She faints because he curses? Bulma asked. between me and your dad, I'm surprised your first word hasn't been a swear word. Bulma laughed when Trunks blew a raspberry at his mother and then filled his diaper. Maybe I spooked too soon. Cell squinted at his shorter opponent before abruptly disappearing. Swiftly followed by Gohan, multiple bursts of light illuminated the area, signaling the exchange of blows between the two. Before long, they were back in sight, looking at each other. Cell abruptly disappeared and resurfaced in front of Gohan, nailing him with a roundhouse kick to the chest that sent the young fighter reeling back several feet. Impressive, kid. Let's take things up a notch. So quick. Trunks thought. Vegeta said, his speed is incredible. Goku assertively said, you think that's fast? Just watch, Gohan. With Gohan's back to him, Cell smiled at him. Gohan turned back to him and gave him another smirk before disappearing, and his smile quickly turned into a frown in an attempt to locate the young fighter. Cell's eyes darted around the area but were unsuccessful. Why can't I see him? I can hear him moving. Nobody is that quick, Cell thought. There. Cell's fist suddenly slammed out behind him, but it was blocked by a Gohan afterimage. Sensing something to his right, Cell reacted quickly before kicking through another afterimage. His mouth dropped open in disbelief as dozens and dozens of pictures of Gohan appeared all around Cell. Because Gohan moved so quickly, his afterimages seemed to be completely real clones. Incredulous, Vegeta cried, this is unreal. Kakarot. How did he obtain that kind of speed? I thought I'd seen everything back on Namek when Goku moved so fast, you couldn't even tell he moved, but this is ridiculous, said Krillin. Goku began. Well, and everyone's gaze narrowed in anticipation of an explanation. It's a secret. Goku began to laugh, and every Z fighter either sweated or gave a face vault. Cell was back in the thick of things, his face displaying annoyance. This is a very lovely show, but it's nothing more than a parlor trick. Cell hit the left side of Gohan's face with his left fist, and this time, his aim was accurate. As Gohan was flung skidding back along the ground, the afterimages all disappeared. Before slide tackling his smaller opponent, Cell took advantage of his advantage and super sped ahead of Gohan. Cell used his size advantage to wrestle and grapple along the ground, taking hits from Gohan before Gohan was able to knock him off balance. Before disappearing from his position, Gohan snarled and pulled himself together. Aiming a double kick at the android's face, he abruptly reappeared in front of Cell in midair before he passed through an afterimage. Directly above Gohan, Cell reappeared and pushed a Rasengan against his chest. Gohan appeared to bite into the teen's chest during the attack, but the teenager quickly disappeared in a cloud of smoke, revealing a huge boulder with a hole drilled through it just above Cell. Gohan abruptly came into view and delivered a vertical kick to Cell's head, causing the android to crash to the ground, but Cell's body was soon lost in a cloud of smoke across from Gohan. Cell reappeared in midair, staring at the young fighter curiously. Ninjutsu, huh? Cell asked. That little trick of yours, was you and a bunch of illusion-based clones? I wasn't sure at first, but after your flawless execution of the substitution technique it became quite clear, huh? The two of us talking right now aren't even real. When dozens of puffs of smoke suddenly burst forth, revealing numerous Cells and Gohans that had been changed into different objects, Cell grinned and Gohan arched an eyebrow in response. Krillin cried out, sheesh. Have they even been really fighting each other this whole time? Of course, Baldy. They didn't start swapping fakes until that last little exchange. I don't see the point in using that blonde fool's stupid techniques, they're worthless. Vegeta grumbled. They all turned to see a Cell directly behind them, launching a powerful energy attack. Is that so, Vegeta? They asked. They certainly allowed me to get the jump on you. Piccolo yelled, it's the real one, everybody move. Goku exclaimed, no, as he became aware of what was about to occur. The true target is not us. Too late. Cell yelled as he detonated the explosion. They all looked down the incoming beam in horror, their eyes widening dramatically. There was no time to get out of the blast's path because everything happened so quickly. They were overcome with a sense of doom until Gohan unexpectedly entered the blast's path and blocked it. When Gohan appeared out of nowhere to halt the attack in its tracks, everyone stopped in shock. Gohan became enraged and yelled at them when he saw that no one was moving. He yelled at them, get out of the way, and they all started to move. As he abruptly doubled the power of his attack and passed Gohan, Cell yelled, just what I thought would happen. You appear in the nick of time to save your friends rather than yourself. Bad choice, kid. The blast streaked across the land and sea before dissipating after carrying off into a rock formation and destroying it. Cell. You coward. A furious Piccolo yelled. Krillin dropped to his knees, his voice hardly more than a whisper, Gohan. Cell exclaimed in delight, ha 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 ha. That's what you get for coddling all those weaklings. At this, With a tone full of disgust, Goku said, "This fight isn't over, Cell my son, won't be done in by such underhanded tactics." The ground began to tremble violently close to the rock formation that Cell's blast had passed through. A golden flash emerged from the middle of the rock pile, and then it exploded in a burst of energy, revealing Gohan in all his splendor. Despite a few cuts and scrapes on his body, he was in good condition. With icy rage in his voice, Gohan threw off his white cape and said, "If that's the best you can do, your time is up." With a crazy sparkle in his eyes, Cell exclaimed, "You're far more interesting than I gave you credit for, boy, let's see more of it." "You're still playing games, I told you no more." Gohan sprang into the air, far above Cell. Without warning, his Super Saiyan aura flared violently around him, and his power level began to rise. "You've been playing with people's lives for far too long." Gohan's power level soared as he roared into the sky. He gets stronger the more Cell enrages him. Could he be the real legendary Super Saiyan? Vegeta thought. With a hint of panic in his voice, Krillin screamed, "What the hell is planning to do with all that power? He's out of control." "Gohan has lost it before, but his attack is always focused at the enemy when he's enraged," told Piccolo. Goku whispered softly, "Come on Gohan, use your training." Gohan's posture abruptly changed, and he began chanting, "K," in a way that was all too familiar. "Damn it. Everybody get out of the fucking way. The brat's using the Kamehameha," Vegeta yelled. "You must be hearing things. Gohan wouldn't take that kind of risk," replied Krillin. Gohan couldn't possibly use the Kamehameha technique from there. "He'd destroy the Earth if he does," said Cell. "The brat tried to do the same thing back on Namek with Frieza. He probably thinks any damage he does will fixed with the Dragon Balls," Vegeta yelled. Yamcha grumbled, "That's absurd. Gohan is bluffing. There won't be any Dragon Balls left to fix anything from up there. He'll destroy the entire Earth." Vegeta yelled, "There's another set of Dragon Balls on Namek, you fucking idiot." Gohan's strength kept increasing, and he kept using his Super Kamehameha, saying, "HAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAA exclaimed, "Stupid boy. You won't defeat me this way." Cell thought Vegeta's theory had more merit this far into Gohan's attack. "What the hell? Now we're rooting for Cell to win this. This is insane," shouted 18. "It's brilliant, not crazy." The final piece of the puzzle fell into place as Goku thought, suddenly sensing something. "I'd almost forgotten about Goku's instant transmission technique. You could blow up the earth in an attempt to kill me. With Goku zipping up to use the Namekian Dragon Balls to fix everything afterward, there's a chance I could survive the explosion. But also a chance I might not, so I'm nipping this in the bud before it gets started. It's been fun, Gohan, but your little plan will only result in your end," said Cell. "You're finished, brat. Masenko HAAA. Cell bellowed at Gohan with his powerful energy attack. Realizing that he had not given Gohan enough time to complete amplifying his attack, he grinned. "What?" Cell cried out as he felt his arms and legs clamped down on him by someone grabbing him from behind. The android turned his head and saw Gohan's ruthless eyes staring into his own. "What the hell, get off of me. Who are you? What are you doing?" he said. Cell interrupted. "How?" as the two abruptly disappeared from their position on the ground and then reappeared in the air. High above Cell's approaching wave, the original Gohan, who was still boosting his attack, disappeared and then resurfaced where Cell had been a short distance away. Gohan roared, "Ha!" as he let go of his blast. It was too late for Cell to recognize the trap he had fallen into. As the two energy blasts combined and crashed into him, he screamed, "No!" The shadow clone on his back dispersed just before the impact. Together, the assaults ripped into Cell, engulfing his body before exploding in a tremendous blast. Hercule and his companions were huddled in terror, hiding behind a large rock formation as the shock wave from the attack's aftermath struck Earth's Special Forces personnel. All protected themselves from the debris that was flying in all directions in the wake of the attack. "Incredible!" Goku cried in wonder. What a devious and devastating combination. The full power Kamehameha, the shadow clone, and the instant transmission were strung together so precisely. Cell never stood chance, said Trunks. Not to mention, he ended up using Cell's own power against him, said Tien. Piccolo said, "Don't get too excited yet, it's not over till it's over." "Look," Krillin said, pointing to the explosion site, "it might just be over." Piccolo. A tiny object was falling from the sky. Trunks asked, "What is that?" as he shifted to get a better view. "It's a leg," snapped 18, startled. "That's all that's left of Cell." "What?" was everyone's collective exclamation. Her claim proved to be true as the explosion smoke dissipated Cell's lower right leg, which had burned off just below the knee, was all that was left. Vegeta mumbled incredulously, "Well, I'll be damned, the brat actually won." King Kai yelled, "Oh man. Goku. That kid of yours is one doozy of a fighter, he's really come into his own. Pulling that combination off Cell's done for. Maybe I should let the Supreme Kai know, they don't need to rush." His antennae suddenly sprung up as something flashed across his senses. He said, his voice tinged with panic, "Maybe I spoke too soon." Krillin danced around and exclaimed, "All right Gohan, you did it buddy, or so." Yamcha said, "Yeah, like father, like son right," while giving Goku a back pat. Around him, everyone began to celebrate, and Piccolo watched his old student intently. Gohan continued to stare at Cell's leg, not lowering his defenses yet. At that moment, Piccolo noticed that the leg was still releasing a key signal and life force. As the implications hit him, he blurted, "You've got to be kidding me." Quickly responding, the Namek blasted the leg with energy. An irritated Vegeta yelled, "What the hell are you so jumpy for, Namek? Cell's dead." According to Piccolo, "No, I sensed life force coming from that leg." At the same time, Gohan added, "I did too." A flash of green light appeared from the smoke and spread across the area, seemingly in line, before coming to a halt approximately 100 yards away from Gohan before gradually growing and beginning to take shape. The ball of energy shrank to roughly the size of a baseball. A fully formed Cell's body was silhouetted by the green light within minutes, and then it vanished. Cell, breathing heavily, exclaimed, "I am whole." Cell was in perfect health. "There's just no way that should be possible. All his major organs were destroyed," said Trunks. Piccolo snarled, "It's very much possible, and Cell is very much alive. It seems the only way to kill him is to vaporize his whole body," stated Goku. "No shit, Kakarot," Vegeta shot back. Cell said, almost suddenly, and with a hint of giddiness in his voice, "You boy are incredible. I never expected to find someone this powerful on this planet." "Where is he going with this?" Piccolo muttered, perplexed. "What a joyous occasion. If I slipped up against you, you could actually kill me. You know what that means? I finally get to do battle at full power," Cell exclaimed with joy. Everyone was caught off guard by this full power. Was a mind-blowing question for Krillin. "This has to be some sort of trick, he's obviously bluffing," Vegeta snorted. "I'm not aware of that," Goku thought as Cell's energy surged and he began to power up. He burst out laughing. Nobody believed it. His power just continued to grow to previously unheard of heights with no end in sight. Trunks stammered, "Amazing." Goku was entirely preoccupied with his son's lack of reaction and ignored Cell. Gohan simply stood with a deadpan expression on his face. As he finished unlocking his full power, Cell asked smugly, "So Gohan, what do you think? You've been messing around this whole time and that's all you've got?" A nonplussed Gohan asked, raising an eyebrow at him. Cell scoffed and said, "Insolent child." In an instant, he punched Gohan in the face and nailed him. Piccolo cried out, not only has his power increased, but his speed as well. When Cell retracted the blow, Gohan simply tilted his head back into position, unfazed. Gohan deadpanned, "Thanks, I had an itch there. How is this possible? There's no way a Saiyan child could exceed me at full power," shouted Cell. "Maybe no ordinary Saiyan child, no, but that brat's the legendary Super Saiyan. You don't hold a candle to him. His power is unparalleled," Vegeta exclaimed. "The question, legendary Super Saiyan?" perplexed Cell. Krillin sighed and remarked, "I thought you already debunked all this legend stuff. Tell me Kakarot, when you faced down your son in your final battle in the hyperbolic time chamber, did it feel as if you facing a being who could draw on a seemingly limitless reserve of power? The more the battle dragged on you reached your limit, yet he seemed to only become stronger and stronger?" Vegeta stopped and looked at Gohan. "Tell me boy, did you find yourself unable to reach the ascended form? You found no higher transformation. Your power just rose to the same levels naturally, didn't they?" "Is this true?" Cell asked. Gohan delivered a devastating roundhouse kick to Cell's left knee after landing a stunning right hook to Cell's jaw. "I don't really know or care about what he's going on about. I'm not a full-blooded Saiyan, so it's probably a moot point. The only thing that matters is you being a smear on my fist." Cell only felt excruciating pain because the two blows were delivered so quickly and with such force. Gohan then struck Cell's chest with his body like a projectile missile before it was launched skidding and tumbling along the ground. Cell's body awkwardly clambered around Gohan's. "Ah! Damn you!" Cell grabbed his chest and rolled to his knees, Gasping for air, he only landed 3 blows. How could he damage me this much, a worthless half-breed child? Cell was rewarded with another kick that launched him into the air, followed by a burst of energy that buried him beneath a heap of rubble and sent him hurtling into a nearby rock formation. When there was no reaction for a few seconds, Gohan became irate and blasted the pile once more. I know that was not enough to kill you, you're not that pathetic, get up, Gohan yelled. Cell roared out of the debris pile, saying, you're dead. You hear me, boy? Dead. Zooming in, the android engaged his smaller opponent in fast-paced hand-to-hand combat. Gohan felt something was wrong as the two swung at each other. His energy would fluctuate each time Cell was able to make contact with him. Cell was able to use one arm to block a blow to the solar plexus and use his free hand to seize Gohan's arm. Gohan experienced a fleeting change in energy before his strength abruptly began to wane. Gohan reacted fast, spinning into a spin kick that launched Cell into the air. Gohan muttered to himself, you leech. He has the ability to absorb power. Just like the original generation of androids, he has been using it as a trump card all along. I'll have to stay away because it seems to be based on touch. Gohan said, so the cat is out the bag, no use trying to do this the covert way anymore. Cell heard this and a smirk came to his face. Gohan shot back, that's only if you can catch me. What are they talking about? Krillin asked, scratching his head in bewilderment from the sidelines. Piccolo moaned, Cell's up to something. Yeah, I haven't figured out what it is, but Gohan seems to have some idea of what he's up to, Goku replied. For a brief period, there were some odd variations in the brat's energy signature. Vegeta thought, the brat is wisely going to fight long range, since it seems Cell was the cause. I think Cell is trying to drain his energy, 18 declared. Trunks said, perplexed, I thought he could only do that with his tail? His tail has retracted, so apparently now he can do it by touch, she responded. Gohan threw a ball of energy that had been charged up in his hand at Cell using his left hand to deflect the attack. The android sent it flying into the atmosphere, where it exploded. That won't get the job done, laughed Cell in response to the attack. Gohan's response, after assessing the situation, was, HN. He shot out of sight with a jolt of energy, and Cell had no idea what had hit him. No one else was watching, so all they could see were flashes and hear Cell's agonized cries as Gohan struck blow after blow. Then all of a sudden, Cell was buried under a mountain of debris after collapsing into the ground. We've already seen this ability at work in Gero's outdated models. You can't even absorb it raw, so if you can't catch me, you can't get anything, he said with assurance. Gohan briefly let his guard down, and it cost him dearly because the young Super Saiyan soon discovered that he could no longer control his body. A single thin strand of red energy stretched from his finger and connected to Gohan's foot as a battered and bruised Cell appeared from beneath the pile of rocks on top of him. Gohan followed him as he rose into the air. You have really amazing strength, young Gohan. Normally someone in my position would hate to have to deal with someone like you, but I love the chance. Your strength is now mine. Cell cried as a number of red tendrils of energy sprang out of his body and coiled around Gohan as Cell began to feast on his power. The young warrior let out a cry of pain from the tight squeeze. As their son, friend, comrade, and great hope for victory were literally being sucked away, the Z fighters on the sidelines could only watch in horror. Tien cried out in disgust, you coward, you fiend. It's not fair. Gohan had him. That monster. Trunks sank to his knees in shock, his emotions swiftly turning to annoyance as he hammered his fists into the floor. It's not over yet, exclaimed Piccolo as he powered up, throwing off his cape and turban. Goku exclaimed, I'll break Cell's hold, you get Gohan out of there. His tone belied the anger that was simmering beneath it. The two hurled themselves at Cell, but 2 more energy tendrils emerged from Cell's body before they could approach. Both of them moved to avoid the defense mechanisms, but as soon as they made contact with their bodies, all they experienced was unbearable pain. They appeared to be simultaneously being burned and electrocuted to death. Both the Namek and the Super Saiyan fell to the ground, momentarily immobilized. It's rude to interrupt someone in the middle of a good meal, said Cell. Goku grunted, trying in vain to regain control of his body. No, Gohan. Piccolo teetered on the verge of unconsciousness and whispered, damn you Cell. An angry Gohan attempted to overcome the pain and escape after witnessing his father and mentor being struck down, but instead of helping him, the energy surge he called forth went straight to Cell before he could use it. As Gohan's golden aura began to fade, he soon discovered that his Super Saiyan power was completely gone. Before he exploded at Cell in a fit of rage, Trunks' mind flashed with visions of discovering his mentor's lifeless body on the sidelines. Trunks roared, I won't let it happen again. As he charged Cell, he was about to launch an attack on Cell when he pulled his arm back and felt a searing pain in his chest, as though it were on fire. When he looked down, he saw a red tendril of energy burning a hole straight through the middle of his chest. He looked back down at Cell in disbelief, and blood began to pool in his mouth. Cell reprimanded, "You just couldn't wait your turn, could you? Your strength doesn't really compare to Gohan's, but who am I to pass up a free meal?" Trunk lost his strength far more quickly than Gohan did, and his eyes quickly rolled back in his head. The tendril threw him back towards the other Z fighters as his body returned to its normal shape. Vegeta was startled as his body skidded across the ground before stopping face up at a shell's feet. Goku made an effort to get up and fight, but all he managed to do was move his head in time to see Cell return his focus to Gohan. The boy kept fighting until the very end, but his hair quickly turned black and he was on the verge of passing out from exhaustion. Cell held out his right arm to Gohan and gestured with his index finger, saying, "Thank you, young Gohan. Doing battle with you has been a pleasure." Just as the tendrils of energy uncoiled from around him, a red laser beam of energy shot from his finger straight through the upper left cavity of Gohan's chest. Goku could only watch in horror as Gohan fell to his knees, his face displaying a look of incredulity. The young Saiyan hybrid collapsed to the ground, face down, his last bit of energy fading. "Goha ANNNNN!" Goku exclaimed in pain. Perhaps he might have been spared that fate, and you had stepped up to the challenge. "Goku never sent a boy to do a man's job," exclaimed Cell. As Krillin eyeballed his targets, he thought, "I'm only going to get one shot at this." His wrist snapped twice, releasing 2 sensu beans as he leapt to his feet with his arm cocked out to the side. The 2 beans that the former monk aimed for ended up in Goku and Piccolo's mouths. Sadly, that was all she had written for the bald warrior. Cell suddenly materialized beside him and delivered a blow that knocked him unconscious and sent him flying. As he took out the last of the sensu beans, Cell said, "I don't think you'll be needing these for much longer. An excellent souvenir if I do say so myself." He poured the bag's contents into his palm, allowing the leftover beans to be absorbed under his skin for protection. In the meantime, Vegeta joined Goku and Piccolo in standing up. The 3 glared down at Cell with a hatred that rolled off them in waves of power and rage. 18 joined them, sarcastically stating, "I'm assuming you've abandoned all notions of any sort of fair fight." Vegeta snapped back, "Just make sure not to get in our way." "Tien." Piccolo telepathically sent out, closing his eyes. "Yamcha, Trunks and Gohan should be taken to the lookout as soon as the cell is occupied. If the Dragon Balls aren't already there, Dend might still be able to do something." Cell let out a collective sigh. "I don't know what you intend to accomplish flaunting such pathetic power like that. Such a shame that young Gohan was only one of a kind." Goku snarled, "Don't you dare speak his name." Goku abruptly materialized in front of Cell, launching a strong kick that Cell deflected with his left forearm. "Sorry, did I touch a sore spot?" You should have seen the look in his eye when Cell's sentence was interrupted. "That's the spirit," Cell scoffed as he cocked his head to the left to avoid Piccolo's blow. Before he could grab Vegeta's and 18's incoming fist and leg, he swiftly knocked the 2 backwards. After turning around, he threw the 2 back in different directions. The android didn't get any respite as Goku and Piccolo swiftly returned to the fight and engaged in a fast-paced duel before the 2 abruptly retreated and Cell was hit by 2 energy blasts. Cell was able to easily avoid or block every attack they launched, though he was unaware of Tien and Yamcha's escape with Gohan and Trunks to the lookout. Cell swiftly recovered from the attack without incident. With disgust, Cell spat out, "Insignificant pests." He delivered a single blow to each of his 4 opponents in a vicious demonstration of speed, strength, and efficiency that all but eliminated them. Vegeta gasped in shock, "How can he be so strong?" Piccolo spat out some blood and grunted, "He downed us with only 1 blow apiece." Goku fell to his knees and snarled, "Gohan!" Before Cell could move an inch, 3 figures dressed in hooded black cloaks and animal-shaped face masks suddenly materialized in front of him. "Don't you see how futile your efforts are? Only one of you fools was a match for me, more than a match, and he fell by my hand. I am the perfect weapon, even able to overcome a superior opponent by making his strength my own. Perhaps I should just put you all out of your misery." They had completely suppressed their power levels, making it impossible for anyone to read anything from them. The person wearing the bird-style mask had a pair of black gloves fastened to the pouch on his waist, and the person wearing the tiger-style mask had a sword strapped to his back. Both of his companions were dwarfed by the bare masked figure in the middle, who advanced toward Cell. Android registration #0021, project name, Perfect Warrior, codename, Cell, threat level, high by the order of the Supreme Kai, for your crimes against the planet Earth, violation of the space-time continuum, and your presence as a threat to all quadrants of the universe. You are condemned to total annihilation. Immediate surrender is advised, declared the character, his voice having a mechanical quality that matched it. Who the hell are you people? Cell asked, staring at them as if they were crazy. As the three sprang into action, he said, refusal of surrender is acknowledged. Hostile target acknowledged. Termination protocol initiated. Team Kai, green light. Cell's mindscape, a little less than 2 weeks ago. Cell floated over to the seal and threatened, you're right, but it has nothing to do with blood. If you fail to come through with your end of the bargain, I'll show you things that are far worse than death. The android shot a final look at the smiling fox before unleashing a powerful energy blast that destroyed the seal. To his surprise, the entire sewer began to tremble and collapse rather than the gate opening. What is this? A furious Cell demanded. The fox exclaimed, ha 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 ha, fool. Before its image changed to one of a single, glowing purple eye with a black pupil, everything seemed to explode in a bright red light after a brief pause. In the actual world, as the cell grew to several times its normal size, its body began to swell like a balloon as a red, spherical barrier grew around his body. His power output began to increase dramatically. This went on for a few seconds until Cell's body seemed to have reached its breaking point and was ready to explode. Cell abruptly and completely disappeared from the face of the planet. The planet of the Supreme Kai phased into existence. Cell's balloon-like body hovered over the small planet's surface. The tip of his tail grew into a funnel and glowed a bright green light just before his body went nuclear. The planet's grassy meadows were hit by 3 red orbs of energy that exploded out of the tail funnel in quick succession. Cell's body quickly returned to its normal size and disappeared back to Earth, leaving the android completely unaware of what had happened. The bodies of Naruto, 17, and 16 were visible as the red orbs of energy briefly flashed brightly before dispersing. The trio remained undisturbed for several hours until they all started to stir, but Kibito and the Supreme Kai were nowhere to be seen. When 17 regained consciousness, he moaned, oh, man, anybody get the number of that bus? Naruto tried to sit up and muttered, damn, that was one wild fucking ride. 16 sat up silently while his body began a thorough system scan. 17 asked, are you alright, 16? I'm fine for the moment, functioning at 64% capacity, but I'll be in need of some repairs to regain optimum efficiency, responded 16. Huh? Naruto asked, staring at him as though he were speaking a foreign language. Translation. The big guy needs some replacement parts. 17 shook his head. Dr. Briefs and Bulma have all of Jiro's old stuff back on Earth. They might be able to fix you up, said Naruto. 16 said, that should be adequate. After losing us, he should be a piece of cake right now, 17 said, clenching his teeth. Don't we need to go back and squash that bug anyway? With a sheepish smile, Naruto scratched the back and said, well, things didn't go exactly as planned. What do you mean, didn't go exactly as planned? Asked 17, narrowing his eyes. With a dismissive wave, Naruto said, it's not that big of deal. Cell somehow managed to keep all his strength, and possibly got even stronger. 17 nodded in agreement and said, yeah, I can see your point. Your big plan blew up in our faces. This could only mean the end of the entire fucking universe. Our escape was supposed to make him weaker, not hand him the keys to unlimited power, he said, snatching Naruto by the shoulders and shaking him like a rag doll. I didn't know, Naruto begged, his head swaying and his eyes swirling. It is not his fault. We should have assumed that Cell's body could retain the imprint of his perfect form, despite losing our physical bodies, said 16. After releasing Naruto, 17 sighed and combed his hair, saying, so what do we do now? No one is strong enough to beat Cell. Goku is going through the same training Vegeta and Trunks went through. He obviously won't come out any stronger than either of them. There's more ways to winning than just beating Cell in a straight-up fight. I doubt someone like him will fight fair, so neither should we, stated Naruto. 16 nodded in agreement with his statement, saying, he's right, we must explore all avenues of overcoming Cell's superior combat skills won't necessarily decide this. We must be creative about finding a solution. 17 looked around and asked, where are we, anyway? Grandiosely, Naruto declared, home planet of the Supreme Kai. 17 looked at him blankly and asked, Supreme who? The man who Goku trained under was King Kai. I assume this Supreme Kai must be his superior officer, said 16. Naruto said, yeah, something like that. He didn't particularly want to have to explain the Kai hierarchy. It looks like nobody is home, so let's head back to Earth to see what we can do about getting you fixed up, big guy. Earth. Dr. Brief's lab, head office of Capsule Corporation. Dr. Briefs sipped his own special brand of cappuccino, which was warm and soul-satisfying, and then he let out a long, satisfied sigh. The news of Naruto's death caught the scientist off guard, so he turned to his comfort drink during his downtime over the past 2 days. He was aware of the inherent dangers of competing against all of the Z fighters, but to him, the blonde young man exuded an air of confidence that made him appear invincible. Additionally, he had previously achieved some success with Dr. Gero's technology, and the blonde was at the center of all of his schemes. All of this was on top of losing a young man who he had come to regard as a close friend. His external thoughts were interrupted when a gust of wind blew papers from his desk and the 3 cell escapees materialized directly in front of his desk. Well, it looks like it's back to the old drawing board. He thought Dr. Briefs merely gazed at them indifferently. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. "What's up, Doc? You look like you've seen a ghost," Naruto said with a sly smile. "Who? What? When? How?" Dr. Briefs blurted, still struggling to think clearly who would when a friend who was assumed dead suddenly showed up. Naruto reassured him, "All, in due time. But first and foremost, the big guy here is in need of some repairs and we need to maintain a low profile. No one else can know we're back." Dr. Briefs said, "Ah, I see, you plan to be the proverbial trump card, as they say. Yes, a good plan indeed." He took a small scanning device out of his desk drawer. After turning it on, he examined the injured parts of 16's body. "It looks like you've been through quite the ordeal. I think I can manage to get you back to your full capacities, but you must tell me how you pulled this off." Naruto began. "Well, right after I left here." 17 interrupted him, saying, "Quick, someone is coming." Only seconds before Bulma entered the room with 18 at her heels, Dr. Briefs shuffled the 3 of them off into a storage closet. Bulma saw that her father was by himself in the room and said, "Hey Dad, sorry to interrupt, I could have sworn I heard you talking to someone." He quickly responded, "Oh, I just finished wrapping up a brief conference call, my dear. Now what can I do for you?" After guiding her father and 18 back to her own laboratory, Bulma said, "Oh, well, we just needed your help with using a couple of Dr. Gero's machines." 4 hours later, Bulma waved to her father as she and 18 left his lab. "Thanks Dad," she said. He abruptly recalled leaving the others locked in the storage locker. "Oh my, that took much longer than I expected." "Oh," he said. A Naruto clone was dozing off on top of some boxes when he hurried over to open it. The door opened and lights came on, causing the clone to stir. When the clone looked up, Dr. Briefs was staring at him with a perplexed look. "Yawn, man, that was a good nap." Before it vanished, the clone said, "Oh, I'll let the boss know it's clear to come back." After a few seconds, Naruto, 16, and 17 emerged behind him. He decided not to inquire about 17's and Naruto's activities because they both had the appearance of a cat that just swallowed a canary. He led them into another area of his lab and began, "Come along then, we should probably do a full body scan on all 3 of you." Shortly after, there was a loud explosion on one side of the complex, followed by the exclamation, "WWWWOMMMMMANNNNNN." Bulma, 18, and Mrs. Briefs almost died of laughter at the sight of a fuming Vegeta, his clothes and hair soaked with a neon green substance, emerging from a smoking gravity chamber. Supreme Kai's planet. The Cell Games are 8 days away. "It's no use. No mere mortal could possibly possess the capability to remove the Z sword," said Kibito. 17 grunted, "Hoo-ah," as he gave it one last yank and failed spectacularly. The black-haired android fell backward onto his head after tripping. 17 complained, "I hate you." Kibito smiled smugly at him. As he approached the embedded blade, Naruto proudly said, "Well, you did say no mere mortal could do it. I definitely qualify as no mere mortal." After spitting on his palms, the blonde rubbed them together and grasped the sword. He yanked on the sword, but it didn't move an inch as his aura flared around him. Kibito reprimanded him, "It's no use. You should just give up." Naruto snarled as he gathered more strength, "Sorry, I don't speak, loser." He tried everything, but the sword refused to budge. With a disappointed sigh, the Supreme Kai said, "Perhaps it was not meant to be." The blonde yelled, "I'm not done just yet." Naruto's body was flooded with power as a shadow clone that had just finished shifting into Sage mode dispersed. Surprisingly, the blade also absorbed some of the chakra almost immediately after the energy flooded into his body like a hot knife cutting through butter. The sword swiftly began to cut itself free from the rock it was resting on. "Impossible. The Z sword is free." Kibito snapped in shock. Naruto was not finished surprising them. A huge column of green energy shot straight up into the air as the blonde abruptly hefted the blade above his head, causing it to glow brightly white. For almost 30 seconds, energy kept flowing from the blade. A person-sized, elliptically shaped blue orb of energy was left behind after the explosion subsided after white surges of electricity crackled around it behind them. The orb drifted down to a patch of grass after a few seconds of oscillation. It released a dazzling burst of light. The orb was replaced by an elderly man. When the light subsided and everyone's vision returned, the strange man looked uncannily like the Supreme Kai, almost like a grandfather figure. "Hey, you young whippersnappers, get off my lawn," the elderly man said, pointing an accusing finger at them as they all just stared at him in disbelief. The old man began to roar with laughter as the four of them performed a face vault. "Gets them every time. Aw, much better being out of that cramped old sword," he said. Kibito cried out, "But you just came from the sword, that shouldn't be possible." The Supreme Kai screamed, "Who are you? How did you get inside the sword? I'm no genie, that's for sure. Haha. Just take a look at the clothes, the earrings, and the dashing good looks. Why, I'm just an older version of you. A Kai, about 15 generations your senior to be precise," declared the now-known Senior Kai. "What? A Kai?" the Supreme Kai cried in surprise. Kibito yelled, "There are two Supreme Kais. Yes, now don't be so surprised. Surely you know the origins of the sword?" The Elder Kai waved off their surprise. He went on to explain, "No, well, you see, there was once this terrible, evil being who feared my great power. He decided to take out two birds with one stone by sealing me into the Kai's most powerful weapon to stop me, and it was used against him. I've been stuck in the sword, stuck in the mountain ever since." He was met with blank looks from the four people in front of him. "Great power? An old guy like you couldn't hurt a fly," 17 snorted in shock. Elder Kai yelled back, "They're not combat powers, you fool." Naruto asked, "Well then, what can you do?" Angry, Elder Kai turned his back on them and said, "HMPH number reason to share with you ingrates. Come on, man. The fate of a planet, hell, the universe could be at stake," said Naruto. "Not my problem." The elder shot back. 17 complained, "Probably forgot what his power is anyway." Elder Kai yelled, "I heard that," Naruto said, "Let's see. I've got just the thing. It'll be an even trade. I'll show you my greatest technique, and if you're impressed, you have to tell us about this power of yours." The Elder Kai exclaimed excitedly, "Well, you did manage to free the sword, and free me. You've got yourself a deal, young man. Let's see it. And I always thought it would be a Kai who'd free me from the sword." He turned to his descendant and glared at him. "I guess they don't make us like they used to. All right then, behold. The greatest forbidden technique of the Hidden Leaf Village. Lesbian harem orgy no jutsu." Naruto began a brief series of hand signals as the Supreme Kai stepped aside to pout. A thick cloud of smoke engulfed the area just as he was announcing the technique. When the smoke cleared, the four onlookers were caught off guard and struck by the full force of the technique. It was too much. The groans, the writhing bodies, the naked flesh, all four were instantly rendered unconscious by a projectile nosebleed caused by sensory overload. While releasing the technique that even had the ability to occasionally defeat a fully heterosexual female, Naruto said in a somewhat reverent tone, "Ero Sennin, you were one perverted son of bitch. You still hold the record. 25 seconds before knockout. No one will ever come close." Naruto scratched the back of his head and remarked, "Maybe I should have gone with the regular harem no jutsu. That was a bit strong, and now I have to wait for them to wake up. But I did promise him the best. It was only fair." The four would not regain consciousness for nearly 20 minutes. "I am not worthy," exclaimed 17 and the Elder Kai as they hurried to Naruto and bowed at his feet in praise. When the Supreme Kai, who now appeared to have a permanent blush, coughed loudly, Naruto was enjoying his moment of glory. The elderly Kai questioned, "What were we doing again?" "I knocked your socks off with my technique, so now you tell us about your power," recalled Naruto. The Elder Kai began a lengthy and complex explanation that left the four of them staring at him as though he were speaking in tongues. "Yes, that's right. Well, you see, I can," he said. 17 said, "Come again. You idiots, I can awaken people's sleeping powers," exclaimed Elder Kai. "Oh, you can make guys super powerful. I can see why someone would want to seal you away. You could raise an army of super-powered guys to take down anyone," said Naruto. "Not exactly. Sleeping powers doesn't necessarily equal strength. I just bring out whatever hidden talents a person may have locked away. It could be strength, intelligence, or any other possible hidden inherited traits," explained the Elder Kai. 17 mused as he considered the possibilities. "Hidden traits, huh?" His gaze was fixed on 17 as he said, "Yeah, let's take you for example. You are pretty strong already in terms of power. I wouldn't be able to do much for you there. However, you possess some other suppressed talents." "What kind?" 17 inquired. The Elder Kai said, "No clue. Everyone started to perspire. Naruto asked, "What about me?" The Elder Kai simply stared at him for a few seconds while scratching his chin. "Yes, the guy who can wield the Z sword," he said. "I can do absolutely nothing with you." Outraged, Naruto made a face vault before leaping to his feet and exclaiming, "What do you mean nothing?" 17 laughed at his expense and rolled around on the ground. The older Kai struck Naruto on the back of the forehead. "You don't need me. You've got the Z sword. It was a powerful weapon before it became my prison master the sword, and you'll be fine." Sheesh. Kids these days, never wanting to work for anything, just want someone to come along and awaken their sleeping powers for them. Why, in my day. Naruto and 17 addressed more pressing issues while the elder Kai went about describing how his day went. Naruto said, "So, what do we do now? I'm going to let the old geezer awaken. Whatever hidden talent I possess, you're screwed. No way you can master that sword in 8 days, shouted 17. "Ha. It's a Kai weapon, with the instructions and some shadow clones. I'll be done before you," replied Naruto. They were interrupted by Kibito. "There are no instructions for using the Z sword. The line of Kais who wielded the blade has long since died out." The Supreme Kai said, "That's not quite right. You should speak with the Grand Kai." Kibito looked questioningly at his master and said, "Sir? It's not a well-known fact, but the Grand Kai is the only other person who has ever even be able to move the sword. I believe he possesses the lost knowledge to aid our friend here." Told Supreme Kai, "I think he could have taken the sword away too, but he decided not to. He has always remained enigmatic." Naruto looked at the elder Kai, who was still going strong in his long, drawn-out speech, and snickered. "Well, I guess I'm off to visit Grand Kai then. You do what you gotta do." Before grabbing the Z sword, the blonde gave 17 a shoulder pat. Naruto hefted the Z sword over his shoulder and whimpered, "Man, this thing is heavy." He then teleported to the Grand Kai's planet. "Maybe I would have been better off hanging around to see what the briefs guy could cook up after he was done with 16, 17 said, turning to face the elderly Kai, who was still babbling. The planet of the Grand Kai, 6 days prior to the Cell Games. Frustrated, Naruto slammed the Z sword to the ground. "I don't get it. I can use the sword like a normal sword, but that's it. What's the trick to it? The only thing this does is suck in sage power. Nothing else. I can't win with this," roared the heavily breathing blonde in frustration. In frustration, the Grand Kai raised his hands. "They would have discussed this for the 20th time. I told you before, you have to make the sword your own." "How?" irate Naruto exclaimed. "Don't disrespect the Grand Kai," said King Kai, swatting him over the head with a paper fan. The elderly hipster attempted to give Naruto some wise counsel. "Cool it, dude. Getting all riled up about this won't help much. This isn't about power, it's about mind. You're a very versatile guy. A man of many skills. The last guy was boring. He just sealed the old Supreme Kai inside, imprisoned the sword in a rock. A guy with your creativity should be able to do much better. Find a source of inspiration." About halfway through, the proverbial light bulb went off in Naruto's head, and he tuned him out. Naruto muttered, sealed him inside the sword, and then leapt to his feet as he disappeared into unknown territory. Naruto exclaimed, "Grand Kai, you're a genius. Arrow Senin, it looks like those pain in the ass lessons will come in handy. After all, I'll be back in a minute." As he danced off into the unknown, a boom box suddenly materialized in the Grand Kai's hand, blasting music. "Right on, dude. North Kai, you should be able to handle things from here. I've got some paperwork to blow off." "Handle what exactly?" King Kai asked himself, incredulously. Day of the Cell Games. The King Kai's planet. As he and 17 stood around aimlessly, 16 remarked, "We're out of time." "Yeah," 17 said, shaking his head, "we needed to be there like an hour ago." King Kai complained, this whole plan of his better be worth it, before his antennae pricked up when Naruto and Kibito appeared out of nowhere. The blonde was wearing a dark hooded cloak, the Z sword strapped to his back in a sheath, and an odd animal mask fastened to his waist. An irritated 17 screamed, "Where have you been?" "I apologize for being late. I got lost on the road of life," shrugged Naruto. 17 rolled his eyes and said, "I'm not even going to dignify that with a response. Let's go." The 16 simply stared at him blankly. Naruto handed a pair of cloaks and masks to 17 and 16, saying, "Wait. You gotta put these on. Remember, Kibito really came through. Oh, and Kibito, make sure to leave the others here after you're done. I don't want them interfering." Present time. XXXX. With the 3 leaping into action, 16 exclaimed, "Refusal of surrender is acknowledged. Hostile target acknowledged. Termination protocol initiated. Team Kai, green light." In a flash, Naruto created 4 clones of himself, each of whom fled in a different direction to surround the battlefield in a huge square. With his hands moving in a circle and a chant that was hardly audible, the bird masked 17 stepped forward slowly. The original Naruto advanced until he was barely inside the line that his clones had drawn. 17 kept chanting until he was just beyond the marked boundary. 16's time was devoted to helping the other Z fighters escape. The area behind 17, who was still chanting, were the bear masked 16, Piccolo, Goku, Vegeta, 18, and an unconscious Krillin. In an attempt to elicit some answers, Piccolo began, but 16 interrupted him by raising his hand to silence him. "Quiet please, this is a very precarious technique being performed. I don't want anything to upset the process," he asked. They all swallowed their questions for the moment. "Phew, thank heavens, these masks can also hide our voices," 17 thought. In just a few minutes, the Team Kai member wearing a bird mask finished his chant, and a bluish-purple energy burst forth around his hands. The shadow clones then all pulled a single long cylindrical black rod out of their cloaks and jammed it into the ground after 16 gave them a hand signal. A huge cube-shaped barrier of bluish-purple energy appeared in front of them as 17 slammed his energy-covered palms onto the ground. A few seconds later, it held only Cell and the first Naruto in the tiger mask, while 16 rose into the air around the barrier's midpoint and surveyed its interior. 17 settled into a contemplative stance just outside the barrier. 17 was a little worn out from the work he had done to put up the barrier. "Alright, I have had just about enough. Who the fuck are you people?" asked Vegeta. "That will be revealed in time," said the previous speaker. "For now we wish to maintain the element of surprise over Cell." 18 asked, "Why are you leaving just one guy in to fight him alone? One person must maintain the barrier, and for the captain to fight at his full capabilities I must remain here," he responded. Vegeta grumbled, "No use in questioning this guy anymore. He's not even the damn leader. You've done nothing but buy us some time. Cell is going to wipe the floor with him one-on-one." Goku narrowed his eyes at Cell and thought, "We might need to slow down for a while. You will pay, Cell, no matter what." It seems our new challenger has trapped Cell along with himself, inside some sort of impenetrable force field. What possible good could come from being enclosed with such a monster? How brave. How bold. How daring. How possibly suicidal, said the television announcer. "What do you make of this champ?" "Yeah, this guy is obviously some sort of wrestler, and this wall thing here is just for special effects. He's obviously challenging Cell to a tag team cage match with his other masked friends. The limited cage area will let him put on a good show, but I doubt he can win," speculated Hercule. Well, there you have it folks. The cage match of the century may have just bought us more time for our beloved champion to recover and face Cell at full strength. This mighty masked man's great sacrifice shall not be forgotten. "Fight on, brave luchador. Fight on," chanted the announcer. With an incredulous glance around the now caged battlefield, Cell turned to face Naruto and asked, "You really think this can hold me?" Whistling absently, Naruto walked up from just inside the barrier to directly in front of Cell. In response, he merely shrugged, seemingly inviting Cell to attempt an escape. Darting to a barrier wall, the android examined it closely. He grabbed a tiny rock and threw it at the barrier. Observing its harmless bounce, Cell stepped forward, pressed his hand against it, then hovered back a few feet and blasted it with energy. At the point of impact, the barrier wall shook before absorbing the force. "Interesting. If I were to try and force my way out of here, the barrier would merely absorb my energy and become even stronger," said Cell. "Bet you were planning on me throwing a big stink and wasting a ton of energy trying to blast my way out here, huh?" His adversary did not reply, apparently choosing instead to examine his fingernails. "I suppose the best way to get out of here is to simply kill you," Cell said, scowling at the lack of reaction. As Naruto ignored him, he began to perspire. Naruto began to move in an odd way. He punched a tiny hole in the ground and then danced around it in what seemed to be a ceremonial manner. Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, 18, and a resurgent Krillin gazed in disbelief at the scene before them. 18 blurted, "What the hell is he doing?" 17 calmly said, "No idea? There was another story inside, bastard. I'll never be able to move on from that." From above, 16 exclaimed, "This is one of his new pre-fight rituals. He's awakening the spirit of the battlefield to ensure a good fight." 17 had to suppress a snort. "Are you people insane?" Vegeta blurted out what everyone else was thinking. 17 chirped back, "No more than any of you." Vegeta scowled at him, aware that a smirk, concealed by a mask, was firmly fixed on his face. Cell shook his head angrily, saying, "I have no time to waste on fools." He raised his arm in the air and blasted Naruto with energy, but as he carried on with his bizarre dance, he disappeared. As he continued to fire off blast after blast, Cell's eye twitched in frustration, missing each time. Cell, now simply pissed off, disappeared from his position, materialized directly in front of Naruto, and then blasted him in the face at close range. Cell was relieved that there was no sign of the man remaining after the smoke cleared, but he was startled when two hands came up from underground, seized him by the ankles, and pulled him down until only his head was visible. Then, the oddly behaving Naruto reappeared directly in front of him, patted Cell's head, and then he reached into his cloak, took out a red book, and began to read. Cell was utterly confused and just stared at him. The android just couldn't understand what had happened before. Since the barrier had been put up, this strange warrior had just thrown him completely out of balance. Perhaps this one requires a different approach. Obviously these bizarre methods are a part of some very unorthodox fighting style. Cell thought to himself. In order to loosen the earth around him and come up from underneath, Cell called forth a brief surge of energy. As Cell hovered in the air above him, his opponent ignored him and kept reading his book, laughing at certain passages. With a spinning kick and a series of fast-paced punches that culminated in an uppercut to the chin, Cell charged at him and nailed him. Then Cell caught him by the leg and threw him to the ground, where he used his mouth to blast him with energy. Cell admired his handiwork with a smile on his face and folded his arms across his chest. After the smoke and debris from the attack had cleared, it became clear that his opponent had vanished. A single hand emerged from beneath the ground, followed by another. Before the android could begin his signature patronizing chuckle with ease, the masked Naruto emerged from the subterranean and dusted himself off. "What will you do now?" Cell asked his opponent, narrowing his eyes. When the cloaked Naruto abruptly disappeared from view, the android raised an eyebrow in response to the strange man's sudden start, waving at Cell as he stretched his senses out. Cell's eyes darted around the area, searching for the man but finding nothing at all. "Where are you?" Cell was about to say something when a red book suddenly materialized and struck him in the right side of the face, crushing his thoughts. Some invisible force grabbed the android by the chest and lifted him up before he could even register what had happened. As blow after blow continued to nail him, knocking his head repeatedly from side to side, his face turned into a smacking post for the book. Cell had no time to recover when the attack finally stopped. The book stuck to the back of his head and then slammed his face against the clear barrier wall that Goku and the others were facing. The android let out a cry of agony, and Cell's face pressed against the wall. "Say it," came a loud, demonic-sounding voice that seemed to come from everywhere. "Never," Cell moaned. "Say it," the voice said once more. "Fuck no." Cell's tail abruptly reached out and slammed violently into the area behind him. It made contact with something, and as Naruto flew back across the battlefield, the masked character was once more visible. Cell disappeared from his spot against the barrier and reappeared in midair directly in front of his masked opponent, launching a tremendous energy blast at close range. Cell began to laugh as the attack exploded on impact, but as the smoke cleared, he saw the masked man standing there with a book that was unharmed but smoking, held up to where he had blocked the blast. "I see you're much stronger than you've been leading on. If you could stop that blast at that range, it still doesn't matter. You don't compare. No one compares to me. I am the perfect weapon," said Cell. His opponent had returned to reading his book and was giggling at seemingly random points, so he was not listening to him. "I'm sorry, did you say something?" he asked, looking back up at Cell after a few moments of silence. Cell was about to choke him, saying, You imbecile." Krillin, who was relishing every moment of Cell's humiliation, declared, "He may not be actually winning this fight, but this is damn entertaining. He needs to stop screwing around. He's made several openings that he could have exploited, yet he did nothing with them," complained a frustrated Piccolo. "This isn't about making Cell look bad, it's about killing him." Vegeta said, "I wouldn't be opposed to both happening." 16 cut them off in the middle of their argument. "It's time," he stated emphatically. "Time for what?" Krillin asked. 17 retorted mockingly, "The sad end of the Cell we've all come to know and love." Cell was distracted from his plan to burn his mask and strangle the man in front of him by the sound of the book snapping shut. Cell missed 16's call, but Naruto said, "I think it's time we got started, don't you think? After all this, now you intend to fight? You've got to be kidding," Cell said, raising an eyebrow at him. Naruto pulled out a kunai and slashed it across his right palm, asking, "Who said anything about fighting?" His hand began to bleed and he turned it outward. "What? You intend to appease me with a blood offering?" Cell asked, staring at him as if he were crazy. Shaking his head, Naruto smiled and said, "No, I wouldn't say appease, more like freeze." Numerous lines, patterns, and symbols began to glow with a bluish-white light as soon as the blood touched the ground. Cell discovered that he was in the middle of a huge 10-point ceiling array that reached all the way to the surrounding barriers. The android realized at last that he had been set up all along when thick chains of dark purple energy erupted from the points of the seal and bound Cell's body. Cell sneered. So it was all an act, just to pull this off? What a waste of time. These pitiful restrictions won't hold me for long. In a mysterious tone, Naruto answered, not by themselves, they won't. At each point of the seal, a number of hidden shadow clones suddenly came into view, along with a pair next to the original. They all took off their masks, including the original, but Cell was still unaware of Naruto's identity. He wore a second black cloth mask underneath the first one, covering everything from just below his eyes. A pair of darkened goggles obscured his eyes. The only identifying feature was the horizontal cut in the middle of his forehead, which was hidden by the hood that was drawn up over his head. This was no ordinary cut, though, because a third eye, the Jagan eye, was soon visible when it parted. The clones standing on seal points exclaimed, "Kanashibari no Jutsu!" as a pulsation of energy came from their Jagan eyes. Cell's body went limp as he stopped struggling against the restraints. Naruto boasted, "My Jagan eye, plus the seal initiation should cover it." Sadly for him, Cell's vocal cords were not affected by the paralysis. The android growled, "What have you done to me? Who are you?" The original Naruto briefly removed his face mask while facing away from the audience. "Ah yes. You still don't remember this third eye, my Jagan eye, has many talents. Perhaps I should enlighten you," he said. Cell yelled, "You," before Naruto's Jagan eye began to pulse with energy. All of these memories that had been hidden came flooding back to Cell as if a dam had fallen, including his attempts to control chakra, his encounter and agreement with the fox, Naruto temporarily taking control of his body to allow the trio to escape, and the wiping out of his memories. Every image that flashed through Cell's mind had the Jagan eye silhouette behind it, and he was in a trance. The original and the other clones laughed when a clone joked, "This must have been what Itachi felt like when he mind raped someone." One of the free clones used the time to open a scroll concealed in Cell's cloak, which contained a paintbrush and some ink, while Cell was preoccupied with his brain overload. He strode over to Cell and painted a number of symbols and markings on Cell's chest while the original Naruto began to power up, open the gates, and tap into Kaioken more fluidly than in his previous ascension to Ascended Sage mode. The second clone had assumed a meditative position on the ground. The android was emerging from his daze by the time the clone had completed applying seals to Cell's body. After making a brief series of hand gestures, the clone declared, "Soul Anchor Seal. Fuin." As the black marks on his body turned red and moved into a circular pattern around his chest before disappearing into his skin, Cell let out a cry of pain. Cell was rewarded with the sight of the final free clone dispersing and the original gaining Ascended Sage form after he had fully returned to the land of living. "All of this so you could do that little power-up? You are only moderately stronger than you were when you fought my previous form," shouted Cell. "Once I'm free, I will crush you." Naruto blurred through a chain of roughly 250 hand seals and said nonchalantly, "I'm not here to fight, I'm just putting the finishing touches on my kick-ass sword." Jero should have learned not to leave his toys just lying around anywhere, they might get stolen. Or worse. Like when Ba-chan would stumble upon some of Ero Sennin's research. His clones burst out laughing again at this. "You resort to this sorcery to take me down? Can't handle me in a real fight, can you? You're nothing but a sniveling coward," yelled Cell. "Who has two thumbs and doesn't give a crap? Naruto Uzumaki, nice to meet ya," replied Naruto. "I thought you'd like to know that Gohan and Trunks are very much alive. Your reign of terror, death and the rest of this whole Cell game's bullshit? A total flop. Since I've got you handcuffed now, this more like that awesome Earth show Cops." One of his clones exclaimed, "Boss, we gotta do the Cops song." "Yeah. Come on," exclaimed someone else. Naruto summoned another clone, who suddenly appeared with a huge boombox, and he gave in, saying, "Fine, fine." As Naruto and the clones sang, he pressed play, and the Cops theme's instrumental began. As his clones kept making up lines that sounded like the song, Naruto grimaced and said, "I gotta learn the damn words to that part." "What the fuck is going on here?" was the expression on Piccolo's face. Vegeta said, "This is by far the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen," as if his head were about to blow up. 18's mind had strayed into its own secure realm in order to maintain her sanity. Krillin and Goku were singing along with the clones, bobbing their heads. 16 and 17 were having a hard time keeping their cool and not laughing out loud at the whole thing. "Fool. I can feel the power of the restraint slipping. Your demise will soon be at hand. Shouted Cell. In a way, the android was right. The paralysis caused by the Shadow Clone's use of the Jagan was beginning to wear off. Cell's upper body was moving a little again. As Naruto completed the chain of hand seals, the tips of all 10 of his fingers suddenly became covered in a dark blue energy with illuminated symbols in the center. Yes, this would normally be the part where I prepare the finishing move, and right as you break free, I unleash my trump card. In some long drawn-out struggle, the fate of the universe is decided. Yeah, that's a load of bullshit right there. This is done. Behind him, he conjured up a clone that pulled the Z sword from its sheath, strode to Cell, and drove the weapon into the ground, piercing the middle of his chest. The android that was pinned down let out a cry of pain from the blow, but it was too late to get better. The original materialized in his place, his glowing hands gripping the hilt, and the clone scattered. As the clones surrounding the enormous seal on the ground scattered and the seal and the sword glowed brightly, Naruto exclaimed, "Congratulations, Cell, champion of the Cell Games. Your reward? Getting sealed into my old school sword. Jugyu Fuin." The whole area inside the barrier was engulfed in a swirling torrent of energy. Cell cried out, "No, you can't do this to me." But eventually all that was audible were his screams as his body glowed brightly blue before disappearing as it was drawn into the Z sword. Hercule and his group continued to observe from a safe distance, unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. The announcer cried out, "It's a miracle. This man has really done it. Cell's been defeated." Still not believing, Hercule screamed, "No way. It was all a trick, I tell you. Special effects. Someday I'll bring it all to light." He was shook by the cameraman, who said, "You can't be serious." Cell's cries diminished in volume along with the light coming from the whirling whirlpool of energy, until the dull hum of the glowing sword was the only sound left. It pulsed a few times before the glow faded. There was only a huge crater with the sword embedded in the middle. The seal on the ground had vanished. Naruto walked forward and used his right hand to clasp the blade's hilt. Following sealing, the sword's hilt turned black with a dark green trim, and 10 tiny red seal symbols were engraved close to the blade on the top of the hilt. After removing it from the ground, Naruto made a few test cuts. Then, suddenly, he yelled, "I have the power," and swung the sword straight up into the air. A brief surge of energy blasted from the blade into the sky, causing thunder and lightning to reverberate throughout the sky. Naruto jumped into the air and pumped his fist, making everyone who was still watching him perspire. "That was awesome," he exclaimed. Then he skillfully slid the Z sword into the sheath on his back after spinning it around in the air. When 17 let go of his technique, the barrier between him and his waiting comrades broke down as he turned to walk back towards them. He passed in front of the remaining Z fighters, who were standing with 16 and 17. After taking a few more steps, 16 and 17 joined him side by side, his faces once again hidden behind his tiger mask in the Anbu style. There was silence for a few seconds, and the two groups just looked at one another. Goku moved forward just as Krillin was growing tired of the awkward silence. He held out his hand to Naruto and said, "That was something else." A smirk appeared on Piccolo's face as Naruto extended his hand and said, "Yeah, that was quite the show, Naruto." Naruto paused, his hands stopped, and he fell backwards, landing flat on his ass. "Damn. That fucking seal job zapped all my energy," he sighed. "What gave me away?" Vegeta grumbled, "No one else but you and these 2 tin cans would even attempt pull of something so utterly ridiculous and shameful." "I think that was Vegeta code for thanks for saving our asses," Krillin laughed. "Watch it, Cue-Ball," Vegeta snarled, leaning over Naruto. 18 said, "All that and you can't even move." "Nope," said Naruto casually. "Oi. Someone needs to zip over to King Kai's to pick up Trunks and the other guys," told Naruto. Prior to lifting his fingers and teleporting away, Goku said, "I'm on it, let's all meet up at the lookout." As they all started to take off, Piccolo said, "Well, let's get a move on." Naruto whimpered, "Hey, a little help here." As they departed, "Save all your asses, and this is the thanks I get. Fine then, screw you guys, next time, you're on your own." When Goku arrived on King Kai's planet, he almost gave a face vault. He had discovered his friends, teacher, and son playing Monopoly, Otherworld version. As he rolled the dice, Yamcha muttered, "Come on, alright 9. Let's go. Sweet, chance card. Let's see. Aw man. Do not pass the checkout station, do not meet with King Yema, go straight to HFIL. What gives man, that's the 3rd freaking time. This game is rigged." Tien made fun of him by saying, "No, your luck with games is just as bad as your luck with women." This made Gohan, Trunks, Bubbles, and King Kai all snicker. Scratching the back of his head, Goku muttered, "Did I miss something?" At last, Gohan saw his father and said, "Oh, hey dad, you want to play?" Goku's stomach growled loudly in response. Trunks snickered and said, "I guess not, we better go before he gets desperate." King Kai exclaimed, "Goku, those clouds aren't food." A warrior's mind is likely to be filled with a wide range of conflicting emotions after declaring an epic victory and then having one's comrades abandon them. Naruto Uzumaki follows, followed by miso, pork, chicken, beef, and finally veggie no, hold on, pork, prawns, vegetables, beef, pork once more, and chicken no. That's also incorrect. What about miso, chicken, beef, shrimp, vegetables, and miso? Perhaps, but I could also order a double Uzumaki special with miso on the side, followed by plain and deluxe. Which of the many opening combinations is the right one? The blonde hadn't even attempted to shift an inch from his spot, and it didn't appear that he would be leaving anytime soon. Krillin decided to pose the obvious question as the group of Z fighters continued to make their way to the lookout. Krillin questioned, "Won't someone go back and get him?" Krillin's worry was dismissed by 17, who said, "He was faking it." By shrugging, Krillin said, "Oh, well then carry on." Prank war, back on, 17 thought, chuckling to himself. Unfortunately, the gleam in his eye was noticed by 18. As she retreated in the opposite direction, she muttered, "Moron." Tien inquired, "What was that about?" His shrug said, "So, maybe he wasn't faking it." With a sly smile, Vegeta said, "That's the spirit." Hercule approached Naruto's body slowly, with the TV announcer and cameraman following closely behind. His group of fighters and female supporters stayed away from him because they were still extremely afraid of what they had witnessed earlier. The cameraman zoomed in on Hercule and the TV announcer, who were crouching over Naruto's body and looking down at him with interested expressions. One member of Hercule's group inquired, "Is he dead?" Hercule reluctantly reached down to take off the mask, saying, "Can't tell with this mask in the way." Naruto's fist shot up into his gut, sending him flying. Just as his fingertips touched the edge of it, the world champion landed hard on the ground, rolled along, and landed upside down on a big rock. Hercule gave a thumbs up and then fell against the stone, muttering, "He's alive." The TV announcer pushed the microphone into Naruto's face and demanded, "Sir, can you tell us what just happened here?" Naruto replied, "Yeah, Cell got his ass whooped." The man repeated, "Can you tell us how it happened?" Naruto replied, "Next question," he asked, "What about your name?" "Next question," Naruto answered, "Sir, the world has a right now. What happened here today," he said. Naruto grumbled, "And as you can see, I can barely fucking move right now, so I don't give a damn." "Who are you? Are you with the government? Who are those other men here today? What are the true origins of Cell? Why did you arrive so late into the battle? Why are you hiding behind that mask?" The man asked, determined to intimidate the masked Naruto into submitting. Naruto changed his strategy. "Your wife's new boy toy? Yes, I'm a government-sanctioned man whore. Your mom's boy toy is a crossbreed between a lizard, a jellyfish, and a monkey's anus. Your wife likes to cuddle afterward. Your daughter likes to cosplay for foreplay, and she's my next appointment." The cameraman couldn't contain his laughter, and the TV announcer's face flushed. Naruto yelled, "And here's my ride," as 18 swooped down. "Who are you? Where are you taking him? What happened here today? The world has a right to know," the man said as he hurried over to 18 and shoved the microphone in her face as she landed. An irate 18 brushed past the man, knocked him aside, and then hefted Naruto over her shoulder. "I'm his girlfriend. We're taking off to a remote island with your wife and daughter for a little after party, and I wasn't really paying attention." Ignoring the irate reporter wannabe's tirades, she quickly took off again. Naruto sighed and said, "Thanks for the lift." 18 shrugged and said, "Now we're even." "Even for what?" "I had no idea," Naruto thought. "Awesome, so, where we going?" 18 deadpanned, "Back to that lookout place with the rest of the Great Brain Trust." "Total shot in the dark here, but you want to go on vacation?" came to Naruto's mind out of thin air after a few awkward seconds of silence. 18 stopped in midair and lowered his body back in front of her, bringing them into direct line of sight. "Go on vacation?" she asked, narrowing her eyes at him after he took off his goggles and Anbu mask. Unaware of her intentions, Naruto went on, "Yeah, I've never been on a vacation before and it looks fun. Beaches, high-class hotels, snow resorts, and all sorts of stuff. So a couple weeks ago I thought it would be cool to go on this really, 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 really." "Hey," 18 shook him and exclaimed. Naruto said, "Sorry, sometimes my brain gets stuck. Where was I? Oh yeah, really, long, 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 long. As she shook him once more, 18 sighed, come on, over the years, someone has been shot in the head far too often. Sorry, long worldwide vacation. After this cell business was over with, then it just dawned on me that going on vacation by myself would be both boring and pathetic, and it's not like you've got anything better to do. So he's not a pig, he's just dense, 18 thought, but then she had another idea. Where did you get the money to go on that kind of vacation? Shrugging, Naruto said, Dr. Jiro's lab. He was glared at by 18. Naruto defended himself by saying, hey, you guys bailed on the place finders keepers. She was still glaring at him. You get a cut of the rest, and 17 hears nothing about this, take it or leave it, provided by Naruto. She gave him a head pat and said, good boy. Naruto fell into her arms and nestled into her chest, saying, awesome, I'm going to pass out now. And 18 with rosy cheeks muttered, I guess he's not as dense as he looks, I guess, you need to be healed first. Over here, Dend yelled, I should be able to fix him up. Naruto was placed on the ground in front of the new guardian of the earth after 18 landed in front of him. 17 smiled as he walked up to his sister while the healer went to work. So, have some quality time with your boyfriend? He joked. What are you jealous of or something? Asked 18, raising an eyebrow at her brother. It makes sense, you were always Jiro's favorite. All of the men in the area abruptly moved away from 17 by a huge step. A completely recovered Naruto got to his feet and said, no worries guys, deep down he's another Roshi in the making. 17 didn't realize that everyone was moving away from him to another area of the lookout until it was too late. Yeah, I had this epic nosebleed the other day when I say all those naked girls rubbing up against each other and kissing each other and... Without warning, 18 began to lash out at her brother with virtuous feminine rage. Yamcha gave Naruto a low five as he chuckled, too easy. Shaking his head, Vegeta said, classic rookie mistake. You never, ever, brag about your level of perversion when a female is present. Yamcha was angry. Krillin laughed as she said, I still can't believe we all survived that. I figured at least one of us would have kicked the bucket for sure. It was nice to finally have someone pull a fast one on Cell after all the cheap tricks he pulled. We still got the last laugh, said Piccolo. Vegeta grunted, that doesn't even count as a win. Trunks looked at him like he was crazy and said, what on earth are you talking about? He sealed him in a sword after we had spent so much time trying to kill it. It's simply crazy. That isn't a win. How could anyone do that? Vegeta swore. Simply grinning at him, Naruto said, who has two thumbs and doesn't care? I thought we had met, Naruto Uzumaki? Enough arguing. Time to call forth the dragon, Piccolo said. Mr. Popo came out of the lookout's interior and said, yes, I have the Dragon Balls right here. He carried the balls to Dend and set them in front of him, and when the 7 balls began to glow, Dend stretched his arm over them. I call forth Shenron, Eternal Dragon, by your name, Dend ordered. It was a sight for sore eyes for the veterans as the sky darkened and lightning flashed across the sky as usual when the dragon was called forth. Shenron phased into view from the Dragon Balls, and a bright yellow light shot up from them. Yamcha remarked, man, this never gets old. Krillin added, you can say that again. Staring up at Shenron, Naruto's eyes were full of stars. Whoa. This is fantastic, 17 shouted, imitating Naruto's gaze. I understand. Goku, who also had stars in his eyes, added. Goku. Put an end to your pretense of having never seen the dragon, Krillin reprimanded him. However, it's been a long time, I had forgotten how wonderful it was, Goku cried out. Dorks. 18 muttered to herself in his booming voice. Shenron declared, you have roused me from my slumber. I will grant you 2 wishes within my power as a reward for gathering the 7 Dragon Balls. What is your first wish? Please bring all the people killed by the one known as Cell back to life, Dent said. It has been done, Shenron said, his eyes briefly glowing red before they returned to their usual hue. What is the second thing you would like? Then they realized that a second wish was useless at the moment. Is there anyone with a good second wish? Yamcha inquired. No, not really, Krillin answered. Trunks added, yeah, I've got nothing, I'm waiting, said Shenron, irritated. All the trouble to improve the Dragon Balls by Den and we don't even have a second wish, complained Piccolo. Is there any way we could put it off for another time, just in case? Gohan asked. We have no other wishes, Shenron. You may go back, Den said.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.